Good evening, all. Welcome to episode 23 of the Midweek Mixup podcast. We've got a mix mash panel today. We will start with our regular. So we have Shomberlon joining us, of course, as usual. What you've been playing at the moment, Shomberlon? I know you've just mentioned before we went live there. It's been a bit of a mishmash, jumping in between games, etc. But yeah, how you been? What you've been playing? And what you've been up to?
I think he stepped downstairs. If you see in the chat, he left his drink down there.
Fair enough. Okay, Mav, we'll start with yourself, brother. How you been today, brother? What you been up to? What you been playing?
I've been playing the Division 2 the last few days, man. After the update on Series X, it's that 60 frames and that texture detail, the fast loading times of hopping around, playing with your friends, dude. It's been a blast. I've been playing with some awesome people, so putting a lot of hours into that, man. It's I feel like it's next gen, but it's not. It's weird.
Yeah, I've heard. To be fair, I've seen a lot of comments on Twitter about just how much improved it is, and that's obviously not just yourself. Obviously, we've seen Cold playing quite a bit of it. We've seen a real abundance. A lot of people actually, if I turn on the Xbox now, you can just see a lot of people playing the Division 2 again since that update. And I think it's obviously not just the 60 frames, but the visual boost as well that it's had to it has really helped that game.
It's pretty mind-blowing, actually. If you play that on the Series X, guys, like it's pretty mind-blowing, actually, the experience that we're able to get now on a console.
Yeah. It's one of the games I've got. I've probably played about 10 minutes of it, but that's because I got Breakpoint instead of Division 2 at launch.
Yeah, that's another one that got an update. That is playing amazing now as well. These updates have been pretty incredible.
Yeah, I obviously can't wait to jump in myself and see what that's all about. So awesome. Is there anything else you've been playing, or is just the Division 2?
We're still playing lots of Halo Master Chief Collection. I started Control Ultimate Edition with the update the other day as well. I have a long list. I've been playing some Hollow Knight. I have this long list of single-player games that I want to complete that I haven't finished yet, that I've started a bunch of them, right? But I keep going back to these multiplayer games to play with my friends and stuff, too. So it's just playing a little bit of everything right now, man. It's I'm having a blast, though. That's for sure.
Yeah, and again, this is one thing we've always touched on, but that quick resume and even just the speed on getting into games just speeds all of that up so much. Makes playing so many games all the time much easier as well. You don't feel like, oh, I've got to load and then load this up and then wait for this to load up and do this. You can just turn the game off, or not even turn it off, just pause that game, jump onto that game, straight in.
Yeah, I can't remember what game it was, but my wife booted up a game the other day, and House Flipper. She hadn't played it in like a month or whatever, and she just loaded it up, and she was like at the exact same spot, doing the exact same thing where she left it off at, and it just little things like that just make it so quick and easy with quick resume.
Yeah, it just makes it so much better.
Yeah.
Awesome. And today we have Mojo on for the first time. Mojo Blues, how you doing today, brother? What you been up to?
Not much, man. Just an old guy. Hang on. I didn't think you were going to come to me. I thought you were going to go to. I was eating a Reese's.
A Reese's Pieces.
Yeah, well, no, a white Reese's white egg thing. They only do them at Easter. They're like big, thick. No, they're great. It's the one with the white chocolate on them. But anyway, I've been playing Watch Dogs and Valhalla, still on those two games, jumping back and forth. But Monday, I got in the mail a little product called I'm probably not pronouncing this right, Satinator. It's a thing for the Sega Saturn. It plugs into the video card port on the back of the Saturn, and then you put an SD card inside this thing, and with all the games on it, it lets you play them, so you don't have to use your laser, on the disc drive on those things, because they're only going to last for so long. I mean, it's a 30-year-old console already.
Yeah.
And so it's nice not to be using that laser, and it's pretty cool. I got to tell you, that plays great. And I'm like a huge Saturn fan anyway. I love anything 2D, side scrolling or the vertical shumps or shoot 'em ups, whatever you want to call them. And that 32-bit chunky graphics is just amazing on a Saturn. And this little device is it's pretty cool. I gotta admit, it's much simpler than some of the other solutions that have been out the last couple of years.
Yeah,
it's still a bit pricey, but yeah.
The Saturn was never one I got into. Was the Saturn? Is it Sega Saturn or Sega Mega Drive? Are they both the same thing or different
Sega
ones?
Saturn, two different things.
It came out. The Saturn was the replacement for the Mega Drive.
Yeah,
did great in Japan, but Sega of America got real petty, and that's what was the downfall of Sega. Was not the Dreamcast later; it was the fact that during that Sega of America didn't want to give up on the Genesis and the Sega CD.
Yeah,
and they were selling a lot of games every time a new game come out. And they were making some serious money, and so when Sega of Japan said, "Yep, we're moving on to the Saturn. We've got to stay competitive. Sony's coming out with a console, and we got to be in there." And Sega of America did not want to move away. They still had, they thought 3-4 more years that they could pump out games before they would have to do it, and they'd come up with their little 32X thing, and so they refused to basically almost promote the Saturn in the US. It was a mess, and it came out like $150 more than the PlayStation 1, which just destroyed it. So how all that goes. But it put that company in such dire straits that by the time they jumped to the Dreamcast and fixed all the problems, it was too late. It was DOA, to be honest, even though they sold like 8 or 9 million Dreamcasts in that first year and a half or whatever it was.
Yeah.
But second, that PlayStation, actually 2, not 1, the PlayStation 2 come out with a DVD player. It just destroyed the dream.
Destroyed it.
Yeah, I don't get it. And they had to have known they needed DVD player built in, but for whatever reason, companies choose to do weird things and then they pay for it later.
Yeah. It just these decisions baffle us all, but it's not like it hasn't continued to happen in some way, shape, or form across the generations.
Oh yeah, forcing the Kinect onto people and causing the price to be $100. And the Kinect's a wonderful device. I love it, but not for games. I never wanted to play no damn games. I just liked having a webcam and a microphone, and the Kinect served that purpose great. But to make everybody pay $100 extra was crazy, and it caused the overall power of the system to be less. Something to do with making it all work. I don't know the full details. I'm not an engineer, but it was just some bad design going in with it, and then they had that idiot running the company that was he was a dumbass. It came from like EA and one of the big, not even EA, I don't know, it was one of the big developers at the time and publishers, and he didn't even like Xbox. He shit on some Xbox games when he worked at the other company, and then they hired him to run the company. It's like, wait a minute, this guy didn't even like you. He tried to shit on games and not let games from his company get on your system, and you turn around and make him the what the. Yeah, there was some weird decisions going on back then. Thank God that when they kicked him to the curb, they're like, well, Phil's been here forever. Let's just finally make him the head of the company. It was a good decision.
Yeah, most definitely. And obviously, it's just went from strength to strength then, but it's been a lot to fix.
Yeah, I didn't mean to go off on the whole Saturn tangent. That's just what I've been doing since I got the device in. It's pretty cool. And yeah.
Awesome stuff. Have you been playing any modern games then after the?
Well, I mentioned, and then Phoenix Rising, I've played quite a bit. So, I have a lot of time. I don't work anymore. I've had a lot of medical issues the last couple of years, and I'm basically retired from working. So, yeah, a little bit of everything. Like I said,
just jumping in and out of different things.
Yeah, well, I love playing both Watch Dogs and Valhalla to for playing Phoenix Rising, and then I don't know. Then at some point I was like, man, I got to go back. I didn't finish either one of those, and I'm, I still have a lot to play on both of them. So I'm like, I'm jumping back and forth with those. But then that thing came Monday, and I just actually been playing Saturn games, and I've got it hooked up to a big chunky tube television. If you're gonna play Saturn, you got to play it on the right kind of thing.
Well, I know that. Most definitely. Last but not least, of course, getting to Shomberlon. I was trying to start with you before, but you left your drink downstairs. So what you been up to? What you been playing?
I've not been up to much. Yeah, it got down to like 15 seconds of the countdown. I went to grab my brew, and I was like, "Where's my brew? Oh crap! I left it downstairs." Right, back in 30 seconds. So yeah, I've had a bit of a funny week. I've had one of those moods where I've not known what to play, and everything I've loaded up, I've lasted about 20 minutes, and it was like, I'm not in the mood for this. Let's try something else. So yeah, it's been a bit of a funny week. But I think actually I've just downloaded or just bought the Warlords of New York. Is it for the Division 2?
Yes.
I've just bought that because I saw. I think it was Marion said on what do you call it on Twitter that it was on sale, and I didn't fancy getting it when it first came out because I wasn't playing the Division, but for $7.50 you can't not. So if you've not bought that, go get it. If you've not bought the Division, that's $7.50 or $9 or wherever you're. It's probably about 80 quid in Poland, isn't it, Mads? So, I think most things are not great there. So yeah, I've been doing Hitman 3 as well. That game is gorgeous. That game, especially when you get to Chongqing in China, with all the neon lights and everything. That game gets very.
The way that
very
opens up with you standing on the side of that the building in Dubai, it's just insane, dude. And even the second level, the mansion, it's wow, super impressive.
I've had problems with my Xbox though, because for some reason for that game, none of my screenshots seem to save. I don't know what's going on with that.
Oh really?
Because like when you first get to Chongqing and it kind of zooms in and you've got like all the rain running down the back of your head. I switched off all the map and all the HUD and everything to get some good shots, and nothing saved.
How's your storage looking now? You got plenty of space?
I've got plenty of internal space. I might just go through like some pictures and clips from years ago and just delete them. Maybe I've kind of filled my quota for actual.
I had some issues where I would take like a record a video, but it would take like 2 days for it to actually show up.
I had that on the One X a while ago. But yeah, that game. So I'm quite chuffed. Well, I'm not chuffed, but it's nothing to do with me. But the attention to detail on the Chongqing level. There's like at the very beginning, you see like a tram going through, and actually in the city they run through tower blocks through buildings. So it's quite nice to be there. I almost moved there a couple of years ago.
Wow.
Which is why I took a bit of an interest in that. But yeah, that's been pretty much me jumping between game after game. I've not really settled down on anything. Hopefully next week will be a bit better. I've got 4 days off now, so I might try and finish Hitman and then maybe try and get into the Division too.
I'm a bit in between games as well at the minute because I finished the Medium. Before that, I finished Cyberpunk. Before that, I finished Valhalla. So I was like, now I'm kind of, what do I start next? What do I have the energy to start next?
Yeah, and it's like, I've got all those games to finish. I still need to finish Cyberpunk. I'm on the last mission of that, but I don't want to start it yet because I want to complete all the other side quests and things like that. I've got Valhalla that I look at the map and kind of get overwhelmed and like, I'm not in the mood for this right now. Although the game is really, really good. When you just see quest markers everywhere and you're just like, I don't know where to start with this. No, I'll do something a bit simple. So, yeah, I'll just see how I feel. Hopefully in the next 4 days, I'll get into something. I've also got the Splinter Cell original trilogy to start. So, yeah, I just feel like I'm drowning in games, but not really actually doing anything. Yeah,
absolutely drowning in things.
Anyway, we've got Vin and Mads here, so enough about
We do indeed. Vin, how are you doing today, brother? What you been up to? What you been playing?
Hello, good evening. I finished Medium. finally.
Yes.
Amazing game.
Yeah.
I started Ghost Recon Breakpoint to join Shomberlon and the rest.
Yeah.
I've reached level 10 now, I think, the first 2 acts. Level 5 is Sniper. And I continue to with the Ori and the Will of the Wisp now.
Another game
Hoping to finish that.
Too many.
Too many, yeah. So I hope finish Ori this week, maybe next week, and then on to Little Nightmares. I've seen Patrick stream that, so I'm gonna try it as well.
Yeah.
I like the horror style games now because of the medium. It was amazing, man.
Did you finish the medium?
Yeah, man. I finished it.
Yeah, we're good.
Not all achievements. I missed some collectibles, but
I missed 3.
3. I don't know how many. I just looked at the achievements, and I got all the echoes, but not all the postcards from Richard and Thomas and the other guy.
Yeah, that sounds like the
Henry.
same ones I'm missing.
Henry.
Yeah, they're the 3 I'm missing.
Yeah, that's all. But it was an amazing game. Okay. And the ending was good. I can't spoil it, but I hope there's a second one coming to see what happened. I wonder who. You still wonder who from the 2. At the end. So
yeah.
It's a bit open.
What choice did they take?
Yeah, I don't know. It's difficult, and I hope there's a second one coming. But the game sold good, I saw. So they made all the production cost and marketing cost back in one day.
Yeah.
Yes, I can't really see them not doing it if they've recouped everything from here on out. Everything is profit. Plus, they have the money from Microsoft for everything for Game Pass. So it's just a question of when rather than if.
Yeah, but they're not a Microsoft game studio, right? They're still independent, or not?
No, but they might decide to do a game between, and then we'll do something else, and then the medium too.
Okay.
But they are a company that have got like their fingers in 4 or 5 different pies, so they have teams working on different things.
Yeah, you gonna do a second playthrough then for the missable achievements or not?
Not straight away. Like before you jumped in, I was just saying how I was drowning in all these games. So I'll probably go back. It probably might not be for a year or 2, to be honest with you. It might be once they announce a new one, then I'll be like, all right, let's have another playthrough.
Yeah. I heard you talk about Division 2 now, so I'm gonna check that out as well. I saw Marion with the patch pictures, the screenshots on Twitter, so might jump in.
It looks really good now on the Series X. I assume the PlayStation 5 as well.
Yeah, and the expansion is only €8 now. I saw in the sale, so
yeah,
might buy that. Oh, you bought it, yeah? I bought Juice X, by the way. It was only €4 now.
Oh, Deus Ex. Oh, it's such a good game. Such a good game.
Yeah, I saw you play it on stream. So.
Yeah, you've got me as a guide now.
Mankind Divided.
Right. Okay. I haven't finished that one yet. I got stuck early on in that game, in like an office building, trying to figure out what to do next, and then I kind of like put it down and started playing other stuff. I need to get back to it. I think Perfect Dark could take a lot of things from Deus Ex.
I think there's certainly room for them to be able to do that, because at first when I kind of thought, first person stealth, I don't know how they're going to do that, and I was like, Deus Ex. I've just played that, so right. I just did. I streamed a playthrough on permadeath.
Yeah, so
with permadeath, wow.
So I completed it, and I was really chuffed. And the credits were rolling, and he had a little figurine, and I was like, "That looks so cool." So I bought it.
That's a game that got really good reviews that not a lot of people have played.
Divided.
A lot of people skipped on that game.
Well, I played the originals on. I can't remember what system it was on. I remember playing the original Deus Exes before they did the Mankind Divided and what was the other one?
Yeah, the other one that you're talking about, I played through that. I loved that game.
The first one's really good. Yeah,
I can't remember the name of it. Future something, or I don't know.
It's going to bug me. I'm going to have to look it up.
Yeah, I'm doing the same thing right now.
I'll let you do it.
Human Revolution.
Human Revolution. That's it. Yeah. That was a
great game.
I actually thought that was better than Mankind Divided.
Yeah,
but Mankind Divided had the better graphics and gameplay. I just thought the story was better.
Is that the newer one, or was Human Revolution the newer one?
Human Revolution is the first one. Mankind Divided is the second one.
The second, yeah.
I hope they'd make a third, but for whatever reason, don't think
it's going to happen.
No, it didn't sell too well. Glad to see it.
So if you think about Deus Ex too, that was a Square Enix game, right?
Yeah.
And Daryl Gallagher was in charge of the Western development at the time of when that game was developed, I believe. So,
I didn't know that.
He's also in charge of the initiative, right? So there could be some interesting things go on there.
Could be something to it. Yeah, could be something to it. Last but not least, we get to Mads. It's nice of you to join on the podcast for a change. How are you doing today, brother? What you been up to? What you been playing?
Yeah, thanks for the invite, first of all. So I really appreciate that. I was sorry, for being late and stuff, but
that's all right.
On top of that, I had some internet issues and stuff for whatever reason. So, I mean, what I've been playing Resident Evil 7 for the last couple of days, and I really enjoy it. Playing some Forza and played Final Fantasy 15 like last week or something. I actually finished it because I was actually I was rushing to actually finish it before it leaves Game Pass, right? So I did it, believe it or not. But played Resident Evil 7, and I'm kind of surprised because I never got to that game because I thought that Resident Evil as a first-person shooter, or not my type of thing. Yeah. But then obviously it's in Game Pass now. I tried it and I'm loving that game, to be honest with you, right? And playing that game right now, I'm so looking forward to Resident Evil 8. I mean, I'm like halfway through the game right now, so obviously. There's still some stuff to do in that game, but I can't wait for Resident Evil 8. Despite the fact that before I played Resident Evil 7, I was not my type of game anyway. So I love it. I'm really enjoying that game and enjoying Game Pass. Can't complain really.
Yeah. And have you played much of the medium, or have you finished the medium?
Oh, I forgot about it. Yeah, I beat that as well. Actually, yeah. Sorry.
Is that what made you go into playing Resident Evil?
Yeah, exactly. And medium. Well, first of all, clunky controls. Only so animations and stuff, right? Graphics is great. It looks really great. The animations kind of ruin a little bit of that, right? On the first contact with the game. Now, obviously, after a while, you get used to it and stuff, and the game is really, really good in terms of the puzzles, and the atmosphere is very good. Yeah. The whole dual reality thing is kind of interesting, although, after a while, it's kind of getting boring, to be honest with you, because they didn't explore that, in my opinion, because you keep doing the same thing over and over again. But the story is really good. Was really great, and especially for me being Polish, it's not even about the fact that it's made by Polish studio, but it's happening in Poland, and it has a lot of references to Polish history and what used to happen, after the war and during the war. And stuff there's a ton of stuff like that. So I loved it. Not only because of the fact of these, Polish kind of, interesting bits and pieces, but generally story is very good. So you're right. I mean, after playing medium, I was like, hey, I'm in this kind of horror kind of movie mood. Sorry. How about I try Resident Evil 7? It's in Game Pass anyway, and I got hooked as well. So
yeah, to be fair, it's one I've wanted to jump into Resident Evil 7, so I might do it. I might be that the next game because I want something that's not too long, got quite a good story to it. I really love the medium. I've seen people play Resident Evil 7, but I haven't seen enough of it to know exactly what goes on throughout the game, so it hasn't really spoiled it for me. the most I've seen of Resi 7 has been that intro sequence, kind of when you get to the house and you get chased by the girlfriend and things like that. So beyond that, I haven't really seen much.
It's good. It's worth a play. Although it's better in VR. I've got it on PlayStation VR, and that is the way to play it.
Hey Mojo,
I struggled with it.
Mojo, I tried that. I actually played, the VR version, like maybe for 15 minutes and stuff. That's not for me. I mean, it's too scary, basically, right? Maybe after a while when I get used to those kind of horror games and stuff. But right now,
than in VR, it's. But even playing it straight, I've got it for the Xbox too, and I've played it that way. And I don't like the first person. I just don't. I think they should have went with third person game, but I got what they were doing. Resident Evil 1, 2, and 3 were straight up tank control horror games that were made a certain way based on the technology at the time. And then they went to 4, 5, and 6, and they were variants in there, a couple other games based on where they released on multiple systems. But basically 4, 5, and 6 were action games, action horror, whatever you want to call them. They were more shooters, like Mads had said. How are they going to go to first person and be a shooter? Well, the original Resident Evil games wasn't really shooters. They were just horror games that had shooting in them. But
actually, they had more in common with the medium.
Yeah, exactly. Especially the first one. But yeah, starting with 4 and then 5 and 6 just went flat out action. You might as well
in Africa.
War. I mean, come on. It was not they weren't even trying to be a horror game. But it was okay. I enjoyed those games for what they were. And I didn't like the fact that they went first person with 7, but it did work. It's a really good game. And 8 looks to be amazing, the Village or whatever they're calling it. I think they're trying to maybe get away from the numbers. But when they were 7 was still just being planned. I think they said they were going to do 3 like that. So expect 3 that'll be first person, and then maybe they'll jump back and do something completely different when they get, to another set of games. It might not be first person eventually, but who knows? Sales has a lot to do with that. It just takes one of them to tank, and they'll panic and switch and do something entirely different. But I think their plan, and it's always been that way, where they do 3, then they did 3, but they put pretty gaps of years in between, just based on what's selling hot and not at any given time.
I felt with 7, it could have just been a completely different franchise. It didn't need to be Resident Evil. I felt that they stuck the Resident Evil tag on there just to get people to play it. It's like, it's another Resi game, where it's a good enough game to be a completely different franchise in its own right. And there's not really much linking it to the original 6.
There isn't any. There's nothing that connects the previous games with this one, to be honest with you.
Once you complete it, then you get, it's not really a spoiler. Chris Redfield comes in off a helicopter right at the very end, and there's a little cutscene, and that's it. That is all that links between.
And a couple of the original games were actually something totally different. And at some point in their life cycle, they got turned into a Resident Evil game. So that's nothing new for Capcom to do something like that. That's kind of been part of the DNA during these, because you got to remember back then, they wasn't just making it for everything. Each port was specific to whatever gaming system, whether it was a PlayStation 1 or a Xbox or a PS2 and on, and GameCube. They were, those had to be built for that particular system. And sometimes they went to other companies, and they're already doing that now with like the remakes. First remake in-house, and then the Resident Evil 3 remake was by a totally separate company, and they did a good job on it, though. They use the same engine, so it's not a big deal.
But I don't really know where they're going with Village, because you're now introducing, a vampire lady and a werewolf, and it seems a little bit kind of straying away from zombies.
They're pulling an Assassin's Creed, where they basically are using the name and just coming out with different games that, hey, we can make it seem like it's part of this universe, right? in some way. We'll throw Chris Redfield in at the end, or we'll have some like hints about Umbrella Corp or whatever. But at the end of the day, it could stand out on its own as a new game. Like I think they should have done with Assassin's Creed. I think that could be a whole different franchise or whatever.
Don't get me started on that.
But Resident Evil as well. They could do that now.
I think they look at it as expanding the universe.
Yeah.
Because they don't want to get that. Wow, it's the same thing that's happened to Gears and a little bit to Halo, but more so to Gears, where people claim, "Oh, it's the same old crap, same old crap." So they've looked to. That's why they went from straight up horror to action to now this first person, whatever you call it. It's more back to straight up horror, but with that first person view. And but yeah, you're right. It could have been anything. And same thing with the Assassin's Creed. They really expanded that world and how the games play and stuff. I kind of miss the old way the older ones played, starting with the second one. But the newer ones are actually better. I mean, there's no getting around it. They're better games.
Yeah.
So as long as they don't screw them up, I'm fine with that kind of stuff.
With Assassin's Creed, my biggest issue is they've just kind of completely gone away from the original Templar versus the Assassins. That, the whole entwining stories of that. That's my only issue with the new Assassin's Creed. In themselves, like I said, they're very good games.
Yeah. Amazing games.
But they're just kind of like, let's have an Animus and then we'll just basically have everything.
I mean, the whole Animus thing, it doesn't really stick right now with these games.
No, it doesn't. It's kind of, what are you doing?
Yeah, I mean, they kind of annoying, to be honest with you. So, it makes no sense. And like, it's actually it's an interesting topic because I remember reading about Resident Evil back in the days, some publication, and basically what I found out is that Devil May Cry franchise, originally that started as a Resident Evil spin-off.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Huh.
So basically, I think they made 1 and 2. And then they started experimenting, with spin-offs and and expanding the universe. And basically, based on some initial work, they basically came up with a totally new character and new stuff. And look how well it ended up, right? So, to your point, right? I mean, with Resident Evil or Assassin's Creed, franchise right now, instead of still keeping all these games under the same umbrella, just create a new IP, and maybe this would even make those games even better because they would not be tied into to the previous games, right? Just Devil May Cry doesn't feel like Resident Evil at all. It's actually better. It's like a proper action game, right? So you never know. But I guess it's all about marketing these days. So,
I think it's always been that, and it's always been that whole new IP or sequel. Because if you've already got a fan base, you're going to sell X amount of copies. So it's much easier to get a game greenlit when you can go to the powers that be and say, "Hey, look, we sold 2 million copies last time. We're going to at least sell that. So we're going to make this amount of money. As long as we keep the budget of making the game at a certain level, then you're looking at this much profit and possibly way more if the game takes off." And then, but throughout the life cycle, things change, and then they, sometimes you just got to say, no, we can't be that old game. We've got to make this a new IP, or sometimes that new IP, like they panic. They do the same thing with movies. Oh, we got to make this tied to some. We'll make it part 7 to some franchise. And it's just.
Yeah. I mean, and that's why I think that Game Pass is going to be, people complain about Game Pass and they keep talking about the fact that Game Pass is how do they call it? They basically say that there's no AAA games or whatever, right? But I think that what Game Pass is going to do is Game Pass will not necessarily force, but will allow developers to experiment more, and they won't have to stick to these big franchises and pretend that this is Assassin's Creed while it's really not, right? I mean, they won't care because basically they will create a totally new IP, totally new game mechanics, and with some fun, gameplay, whatever. They will name it however they will want to name it, and and the game probably, if the game is going to be good, people will play it because these games going to be on Game Pass, so people will try it out, and some people will buy it as well. So that's why I'm so kind of hopeful for Game Pass, and with so many games and so many game studios under the game studios and Game Pass umbrella. I really do hope for some new games, and with look at Project Mara, right? Even Hellblade. I mean, Hellblade. I know Hellblade didn't start under Game Pass, but that was kind of a refreshing kind of game. Nobody really made that kind of game before, right? So we'll see.
Yeah, but it's the same with the Medium, right? And Bleeding Edge, for example. Those are games I wouldn't have bought them, but they're in Game Pass, so I tried them out. And like the Medium, it's amazing.
Yeah. There's so much more that can do with the Medium as well, if you think about it. It's obviously it's first in the series, but even if you have a look at for instance, the powers that they can use in the spirit realm, that can be just enhanced so much more. Like you can use the powers as defensive maneuvers, but you can then, especially on a second, enhance them depending on what characters you're using and things like that, to really kind of expand on what those powers can do. Can you use them as an attacking maneuver? Can you kind of go on from there? So it'd be interesting to see what they can do.
But I think that's the power of Game Pass at the moment. I wouldn't have bought the Medium, but it's in Game Pass. You're gonna try it, and I love the game. So.
And again, I think what you're saying there about Game Pass is the Medium is another prime example of games that have already proven that the Game Pass only enhances sales. If that game has already recouped all of its development and distribution costs and everything
day one.
On the first day, and it's in Game Pass on day one, then what? Kind of that rumor of Game Pass doesn't make anybody money just goes straight out the window. It has to. If you can recoup all of your development costs and kind of marketing costs in a single day, it's just insane.
How are they splitting the money then on Game Pass? Is it like there's a total amount of money, and the more your game gets downloaded, the more you get from the total revenue?
It depends on developer.
Game by game basis.
Yeah, exactly. It's everything is on a game by game basis with Microsoft.
If you're the hotness, Microsoft will pay you a lot of money to get the game on Game Pass. If you're a nobody little developer, then you just get more money per downloads and more money per hours played.
So but how do you get day one then? They brought out the news. Day one, we get all the costs back, right? The marketing, the production. But how
are you selling the game physically and on Steam, right? So.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay. Well.
I mean, it's up to the developers and Microsoft. Microsoft even said that if there's going to be a project that a developer would like them to pay for, they'll do it if they come to some kind of an agreement. So I'm not saying I'm not saying that happened with Medium, but they don't have one particular way of dealing with those games and stuff.
Okay.
And because Microsoft is Microsoft, they've got their fingers in so many pies. And I'm not saying this is ever going to happen. I don't believe it's going to happen. But you could have something like the show. Microsoft could say to Sony, well, can we have that in Game Pass day one for 6 months, and we'll give you a year of Azure servers, something like that, because they've got that leverage. I don't think that's ever going to happen, but it doesn't necessarily need to be cold hard cash. It could be whatever Microsoft actually has that they can use for leverage.
Yeah, exactly. And to be fair, if Sony was saying, "Oh, listen, you show us where we can make money from this, and we'll probably do it," because end of the day, it's a business. There's a good chance they can go, all right, if Game Pass is going to guarantee us at least 5 million people playing this game, at least out of the 18 to 20 million people you've got sitting on there, because let's face it, if it's in Game Pass, we'll try it even if we don't like it. Or even if we're not interested in it, like the vast majority of people.
Bleeding Edge,
didn't cut it. It was not a good game.
Nope.
It honestly was not. It looked cool.
Yeah,
and I thought it had really great graphics and all that, but that that type of fighting just wasn't very satisfying. Horrible
Unfortunately,
combat.
that game was so limited as well. Like,
Yeah.
I played a couple of games. The games, like the actual game types and things like that, there was no variance in it. It was just the same stuff. It was like, once I've played it for about 20 minutes, I'm like, oh, okay, right, turn it off.
It's funny that people chalk that up as like a Microsoft loss, like the bleeding edge failed, when that's something they had already been working on, before they were even acquired, and it was just like a small project, kind of a test for them. Like somebody wanted to make this multiplayer game.
But
so
it was easy 1000G, right? So
I was gonna say I got 1000G on it.
Yeah, but it's in Game Pass, right? So like when it comes to Game Pass, it's not that quality doesn't matter. Quality does matter, but the Metacritic scores on these games, like the Medium and other games, also don't really matter, because you can go in there and decide for yourself whether you like something without having to make that hard decision beforehand, right?
Yep.
It's like beforehand when you have, okay, I got $60, I got to go, I can get one game. Which one is it going to be? You go and look online, okay, what did this get? What do people think about this, right? Now you got Game Pass. Just try it, play it. If you don't like it, move on.
Recently was out there. Are you going to pay $70 for Destruction All Stars, or are you going to play the Medium for free?
Yeah.
I played the Medium and loved it, and I did not buy Destruction All Stars. I did look some other people playing it online, and I was like, "Oh, that's garbage."
Well, it'd be fair that I think that game was part of the PlayStation Plus promo.
Yeah, that's true.
They didn't give it away.
But the thing is, it's part of PS Plus this month. But for all new users who eventually get those systems in several months down the line, they're not going to get that.
For it. Yeah,
exactly. And is that a $70 game? No.
No, it's horrible.
A $20 game, probably.
Not if you live in Poland. It's what, 100?
If Mads has to buy Destruction All Stars, it's something like 100.
Yeah, I don't know why people aren't complaining more about the price increases when the publishers' prices are going through the roof right now.
Hey,
when their profits.
I've been complaining about it all the time. But
I have too, man.
People just keep telling me that to shut up. That go play
weird.
your
Xbox Live tried to raise the price once. We all freaked out, like, no, burn in hell, Microsoft. You can't do this to us, right? But like $70 games are just like, hey, it's a new thing. It's expected.
Quality.
It's
hey Marv, it's 70 for you. It's 95.
Which is even worse. I feel worse for you, man. But it's like, have y'all seen the earnings reports coming out from all of these publishers the last few weeks? Their profits are going through the roof. They don't have to increase to $70, especially not Sony, not Activision, and not Take-Two. Right?
It's like energy companies in the UK. Every year it goes up, and every year they post record profits. It's like, why is it going up? If you're getting record profits, like, why am I paying an extra £100?
Because we want more and more and more and more.
But that's the thing as well. Like and this is where it kind of translates into actually how much it costs over here, because it's $70 over in the US. Now, if it was still $70 in the UK, i.e., if your currency variance, you're talking £50 pounds. But if you're going over to 70 British pounds, that's more like 80 to 90 US dollars. So if you do the actual currency conversions, like again with the euro to US dollars, you are talking closer to that $100 mark, and that's why kind of over in Europe and the UK, it's just insane to pay that much for a game, like 70 for something just a base game. Like we're used to paying 70 to 80 maybe at a push for deluxe or ultimate editions, not just your bog standard games that you used to get with no changes.
10 years ago, even 15 years ago, I was one of the first people that said, whoa, stop this deluxe version of fucking games. That's going to bite people in the ass. Instead of paying 60, the majority is going to end up paying 90 or 110 to get that. It's so little extra is added with that crap.
Yeah.
Oh, we'll give them a few skins and this or that and call it deluxe, or maybe even throw away a cheap, crappy statue. And they're gamers. They're going to suck that crap up. And boy, they do. They did. And they continue. And I've always been like, no, it's a horrible thing. You don't need that.
You see, the trend that I don't like at the minute is when you see them ultimate collector's editions that don't include the game.
Yeah. When that started happening, that's when I said, I give up, because people still buy it. How are you going to buy Ultimate Collection that don't have the stinking game in it? But those things have gotten so pricey. If they put the game in it, they got to add another $60, $70, and I guess they're afraid they can't sell the little trinkets that go with it. So they just we'll pull the game out. They'll still buy it, yeah. And wow, people do. And I'm not bagging on them. I get it. Everybody, if you love collecting crap, I mean, I collect fight sticks, but I rarely play any fighting games. What's wrong with me? And I've got a lot of them, and I keep buying them. My son's like, "Oh, you bought another fight stick."
I am kind of hoping Street Fighter makes a return to the Xbox this generation.
Oh my gosh, yes, please. That sucked, man. That really did suck.
Yeah, I've never forgiven Capcom, Sony, and Microsoft for that. Microsoft had a chance to do something there, but they were like, well, we had a deal with Capcom where we got that really crappy zombie comedy game.
Yeah.
We did your system with, and that was Capcom. So Sony funded that, and I would have been like, no, Microsoft should have stepped in and said, oh, hell no, Capcom.
I don't think it did well for
with more than what even Sony's paying.
I don't think it did well for Sony or Capcom having that as an exclusive. I mean, because it didn't really sell that well. It launched in a bad shape, right? And it took them a long time to get it.
They needed that money, and they rushed it out. But the money Sony gave them kept the lights turned on till they got Monster Hunter ready to ship.
Yeah,
that's the big deal that came out of it all. And that also they were hard at work on Resident Evil 7 and Resident Evil 2 remake. Those games were under production on Sony's dime that they paid for Street Fighter. So I kind of get it, you know. It made sense for Capcom, but I'm just saying Microsoft, they had to have known. Somebody had to whisper in their ear, hey, Sega or Sony's about to screw and get Street Fighter. And they did nothing. But back then, you got to realize how bad a shape Microsoft was in. Or I shouldn't say Microsoft, Xbox was in.
Yeah. When was it? What was it, like 2015?
14 into 15.
That's about
the only thing we're lucky about is that Street Fighter 5 was a colossal failure in the fact that they decided to launch that game in like many parts where you had to buy every character pack separately, and it was just because I was debating on getting that on the PlayStation. I was just like, especially when it first launched, I just went, well,
and I'll admit I bought it for the PS4, but way later on down the line, I got it for almost nothing. So, and it was a maxed out version with like all the different DLCs. I'm like, yeah, okay, I'll pay like $9.95 for it. And I got it at sale, but when it first came out, that was a pretty crap move. And I'm not big on exclusives when they do it like that, like the crap with Spider-Man and the Avengers. You don't hold content from other consoles. But I do agree that if you go to a company and you say, make me a game, here's $20 million. Yeah, that's only for your system. I get it. And
right. Or the game wouldn't exist otherwise, right?
Yeah, and that kind of is what Sony did with that Street Fighter, but you're talking about a franchise that has always been multi-plat. It's been on everything. They put Street Fighter, the original Street Fighter 2, on friggin' toasters. You name it, you could play Street Fighter on anything, everywhere. And then all of a sudden, it was like, nope, just on PlayStation. It was like, that was just...
Hey, it's going to be on Xbox once Microsoft buys Capcom. So
you never know. They might have some ironclad fine print saying they even.
Then we get Street Fighter versus Killer Instinct, right?
Yeah. Well, there's a news that they are looking for developer to actually make another Killer Instinct. So
but now you got to wait 3 years for it to get made. It's like, what the effing is Microsoft doing? That game, they could have found a developer. That's BS saying we couldn't find a developer. There are hundreds of small developer companies that could have.
Maybe they are looking for a proper developer, good developer.
But the studio that made the last one, right?
2 studios. One studio made it, and Amazon bought them, and then they turned it over to another studio. They were both tiny.
Oh,
did a great job with it.
One was Iron Galaxy. I don't remember the other one.
Yeah. It was,
Oh, that's a shame.
I mean, I've got Killer Instinct, like all of the Killer Instinct, the Ultimate Edition with all the different packs and all of the original things on the Xbox, and that game is still awesome to play, even on cloud and everything. Like Killer Instinct is an awesome game.
But the truth is, and a lot of people won't admit it, as soon as that bad version of Street Fighter came out, that was locked to the Sony system, Killer Instinct was dead. I'm just telling you right now. I watched those fight shows, and the big one, the big one. Come on, somebody, you know what I'm talking about. It's always all over the internet, and
one in Vegas.
The fighting game mecca. But that first year that Street Fighter came out, it bumped Killer Instinct off the freaking venue. And it didn't knock it off completely. It just dropped it to like one of the other days, and it was no longer an important game. And within 2 years, it was off their menu completely. It wasn't even there to play. And it was like, damn, really? That's such a great fighting game, but nobody's playing it.
Yeah, I think the failures of the Xbox at the time had a lot to do with that.
Yeah.
You know, and also, like, a lot of people like that game, and actually it was, when it did launch, it was one of the successes of the Xbox One launch, right? It was one of the things people were talking about, hey, this is actually really good. You know, this is one of the good things. But they kind of failed with how they released the content, with having it in those character packs, kind of like Street Fighter did, right?
Yeah.
Now, if they did that same style today with Game Pass, it would be a different story, because once you subscribe to Game Pass, they can just keep adding characters as an influx, right? And you keep the game alive over time doing that. So
Smash Brothers caused that, and I blame them for them crappy character packs where you gotta pay for 2 characters, twice a year. That's horrible. Mm-hmm. But Nintendo people are so desperate for content, they've always done it. They've always sucked it up and bought it.
Yeah, it was a huge deal when they announced Sephiroth, right? Just recently.
Oh
yes.
Huge deal,
really big deal.
Huge deal to Nintendo people, but
yeah,
I'm not buying none of them characters. I don't even play Smash Brothers. If you're a real fighting game guy, you don't play Smash Brothers. That's a kid.
Shots fired.
A lot of people. Yeah. Smash Brothers is a kiddie game. It's not real. It's not a real fighting game. Wow, I said it. It's out there.
Yeah.
Well, Nintendo Switch is
Street Fighter makes
so
that comeback, man. That'd be nice.
I have multiple versions of it for multiple consoles or throughout the years. What did that appear first on the GameCube, right? Was that even on the 60? No, it might have been all the way back to the N64.
64. 64.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of versions of Smash Brothers. But whatever.
Awesome.
My thing is, when they started selling character packs as that DLC crap, instead of just coming out with a new version of the game, it was like, bad. That's going to cost people a lot of money. And it has. Because Street Fighter jumped on that bandwagon big time, and Killer Instinct too.
The thing is, what people need to realize as well, though, is that like Nintendo are in a world of their own. They can do what they want because they've never done any different, and people expect the same. So like they will sell things, like as we've discussed several times on this show, Nintendo will sell the same game throughout its entire lifespan with no price decrease.
I desperately want the Super Mario 3D thing. It's about to come out.
You know what? It's what's funny about, and obviously that will apply only to Polish market. It's actually funny because like last generation and the generations before, Nintendo games were the most expensive here in Poland. Like literally we would have to pay like 30-40% more than like PlayStation and Xbox games. And now it's flipped on its head. Now Nintendo games are pretty cheap, like normal $60, like if you convert it to dollars, right?
Yeah.
Well, PlayStation is like $100. It's like crazy, right? So I'm just kind of wondering what Xbox is going to do with that price.
Here in the States, Nintendo never. They're always full price. I mean, a game can be 5 years old and they're still full price.
Yeah, well, even the console's been out 3 years and it's not reduced in price.
Well, it never will be. The what was the one before it? The Wii U. It never went down in price. I still want a Wii U, and after the Switch came out, I was like, "Oh, I'll wait." There'll be that little gap of about 6 months where Wii U's will drop down to like $150 or $199, No, man, those things stayed like $350 forever, and you can actually still get some old stock, new old stock they call it, full price. There's no discount for it. Used ones go for what a brand new one cost back in the day still.
But that's only Nintendo stuff because because I bought a Nintendo Switch last year, like December, and I was actually quite surprised how many really cheap games you can find on eStore. Yeah. So but that's mainly third party, right?
Third party, yeah.
Yeah. So and I'm not joking. I bought like number of games for like $1 or $2, right? It's like super cheap. But Nintendo stuff, full price all the time. So
Although each system that they release, you'll be buying Super Mario World,
full price
again, full price again and again and again.
Yeah,
but you know what? Some of those games are so good, it's kind of hard not to. It's like crap.
Oh, and hey guys, don't forget, you got roughly 40 days left to get that Super Mario 3D All Stars.
Yeah,
I got it. Yeah,
until it disappears forever.
It'll disappear.
I bet that when the time comes, and we'll say, you know what, we change our minds. We're not going to retrieve it from the market. So
they're doing what Disney used to do with their films. We used to be able to get them on DVD for like 2
Disney
years,
Vault.
and then they disappear. Then they disappear for like 6-7 years, and then they go, "Oh, coming back is Sleeping Beauty and Robin Hood and whatnot."
They're doing with Mario what McDonald's does with the McRib.
And Disney's doing it with Fox. When they bought 20th Century Fox, they pulled all those movies and put them into a vault, and they're not putting them out on 4K. If they already had a 4K release, great, it's out there. But otherwise, you might have to wait 3 years, 10 years, and then Disney will finally pull it out and do a release. But they may never put those on disc either. They're thinking that by the time they get ready to re-release a remastered version of whatever Fox movie, they won't put it on disc. It'll just be streaming only and buy it on their streaming channel. It's really crappy. Physical media is in a really shaky spot right now. It's sad.
Yeah,
it is what it is. But what can we do? I mean, digital is overtaking slowly but surely. And I think COVID really doesn't help that either, because unless you're buying things on Amazon consistently or on eBay or online stores, it's digital's the quickest and easiest way to get games right now. If you want to play a game, you don't really want to wait a day or two. You can just download it digitally and play it within an hour or two at most.
Yep. 700 games on my Xbox, all digital.
Yep.
But, yet I still know that that's wrong on so many levels, because all it takes is for them to, no, we're not going to keep this particular game on our server anymore. And you'll never, ever be able to play it. It'll just disappear. Maybe if you have it on a hard drive, you might be able to still play it later on if they don't, if there's not something missing, type deal that it has to have to keep playing. But it'll be that same way. I kind of look at it the same way. Even if you have a physical disc, a lot of those games will not play if you're not on the internet. And if even single player games, you can have stuff that it has to pull off the server for it to operate correctly, and eventually those games will just not work. But I hate it that they do that kind of crap, because like physical media movie wise, I have thousands of movies going back. I've got laser discs. I mean, I insanely collect, and but I love that. Even though I've got like HBO Max and I've got Netflix and I've had a couple other streaming services, I got stuff to watch.
Discovery Plus as well over here.
Well, I don't have Discovery Plus. I don't like those reality shows and crap they show. I know people love that stuff, but that's not what I'm into. I'm a movie guy. But I like being able to walk into my living room and I've got bookcases lined up everywhere. They're just full of movies and grab something, but it's getting harder. I buy so much than what I used to back in the day, because now I just watch stuff off streaming.
Yeah.
I mean, my God, that I don't know if I know they know it because of the HBO Max deal, but having Warner Brother movies drop day and date on your service. Microsoft knows because they drop their games day and date, on Game Pass. But even with movies, it's like, wow, I'm getting something special here. It's in theaters right now today, but I'm I'm watching it, and I hope they don't do it just this year. I hope that they look at it and decide that it's financially more profitable for them to continue that, from on and on. It's pretty damn cool. But who knows? It's all about the money.
Yeah, most definitely. All about the money. And we'll get on to the first, and this is probably all about the money, the first main topic of tonight, and that's this.
So we've been talking an hour.
Main topic.
See, I got it all off track immediately, Mads. I got them talking about the Sega Saturn.
What have you been playing? Sega Saturn. Well, I got this, and this, and it's like we've gone.
Yeah,
gone straight off.
Panzer Dragoon Saga.
Because you were kind of in and out then, but I bought a thing called the Satinator or something. I don't know, but it plugs a video card that plugs into the back of the Saturn, and then you put an SD card inside of that every game.
Yeah.
It's cool.
It's the Chinese Eliminator. That's what it is.
You have to try Panzer Dragoon Saga. That's an amazing game.
Yeah.
I love that one.
I played.
Awesome stuff. So this first topic here was obviously the topics and discussions that came out across quite a few major gaming websites, and that is that BioWare and EA are looking into obviously having essentially an internal conference to debate the future of Anthem following the overhaul or continued development of not Anthem 2.0, but essentially relaunch and rebooting the franchise from scratch after its initial lukewarm response and failure, much to essentially a No Man's Sky 2.0, where No Man's Sky launched and missed out pretty much every feature it touted pre-launch, as did Anthem. The game itself has so much promise. The gameplay, the graphics, the world itself, but it was ultimately very shallow. They started to add more things to it over time, add more weapons, more skins, but ultimately it didn't really take off. Now, the discussion today is really to see whether or not, or debate between ourselves, whether or not kind of we think that game does deserve another chance, what our thoughts on the franchise has been so far, and is it worthwhile EA and BioWare continuing with this, bearing in mind, of course, they are also continuing with a new Mass Effect after Andromeda had a lukewarm reception, and then having the Mass Effect remastered kind of trilogy also coming out recently. So I'll start with Mads, I think, on this one. So Mads, with that kind of discussion internally for EA and BioWare on the future of Anthem, what's kind of your thoughts on that? Do you think it should continue? Do you think they should leave it? What do you think?
Well, I guess it all depends on, because we don't really have all the information necessary to make, any decisions like we as outside viewers, gamers.
Yeah.
I guess it all depends how much work they already put into that game. How much work would it require to fix the game? Because let's face it, we're talking about the content and end game and whatever, right? But the game is still very rough around the edges, especially on on console. PC is probably hey, it's not working, well for you. Just throw more powerful GPU, right? So that will solve it for you. But on console, I played that game on Xbox, a while ago. Just wanted to try it out again, and yeah, I didn't like it. I mean, it's not that I didn't like the game, right? But some aspects of the game are very off-putting, I would say. So they really need to fix, the game, the whole hub. The loading screens are terrible in that game, to be honest with you, and very annoying. And just make the game more interesting, in my opinion. Because I played that game for a little bit, and I was yeah, I found it a little bit boring. I don't know. That's just my personal opinion, but the flight mechanics and the actual the Shooting mechanics, I guess, are all right. I mean, nothing really special. It's always nice to have that like Iron Man feeling, playing a game and stuff, right? So, I mean, there is a potential. My only worry with that game is that when did that release? Like 2017?
Yeah.
It's 2021 now, and they still haven't done anything with this game. So I think that it might be a little bit too late, especially that, right now we are learning that EA is working on, Mass Effect, another Mass Effect. There's a Mass Effect remaster. BioWare, of course, is still working on this Dragon RPG. I keep forgetting the name of it.
Dragon Age.
Yeah, Dragon Age, yeah. So I guess it's a matter of like managing the resources, because let's face it, if they're not going to dedicate a big team to fix it, right, it's just going to be waste of money. If they're going to just assign 10 people to, make some tweaks here and there, that's not going to do for that game, nothing for that game. So I think, in my opinion, it's just a matter of like, okay, guys, what do we do with that game? Are we dedicating a big team of people to like fix the game properly, or are we just canceling the project and we are moving all our resources to other projects that, probably going to make better, do better, right? So I don't know, like, no, don't get me wrong, I would like this game to be more interesting and stuff and more polished. I don't know, just make that game 60 frames per second on next gen consoles, release a patch, right? Something like that. But we all know that it requires a lot of work and stuff. So I don't know. Me personally, I have a feeling that they will actually ditch that game completely and just move the all the resources for that game to like different projects. But like, hey, I would love to be mistaken, right?
Yeah. Mav, what's your thoughts on the situation then? Have you played much of the game? What did you think of the game, and do you think it can be resurrected?
So I was super excited for this game to come out, and then I didn't get it day one. I did get it down the road, because of all of the stuff that was coming out about how it was going to lack. It was lacking in content and stuff, and I was like, okay, well, they're gonna kind of add stuff to this and fix it, and I want to experience that, right? And then it's been 2 years now, roughly, and it still hasn't happened, right? So that's kind of a downer for me, because I was really excited about what this could be. I have checked it out. I've played some of it. I think it plays really well. I think they have a solid foundation there, and it would suck just to throw that away, right?
Yeah.
Like this foundation that you've built that has this solid gameplay, you've come up with this universe, this world, all of that world building and all of that stuff goes into this, to just take it and just scrap it and say, okay, well, that was a waste. That kind of sucks to me. Now, BioWare has always been one of my absolute favorite developers, but I don't know if they're necessarily the same as they used to be, right? To have that come out in that state with that limited amount of content is just kind of weird. So, I mean, I don't know, dude. Like, it's like a balance. There's only so many people there. Now I have to think, okay, what do I want more from them now? Do I want them to fix this, or do I want them to put that effort into Dragon Age? Because I love Dragon Age, right? And I'm worried about that now, because they have only so many studios, so many people there, and like Mads was saying, they have so many projects in the works. I care more about Mass Effect. I care more about Dragon Age, with just how much I've loved those franchises in the past and playing those games. That it's like, if working and fixing Anthem is in any kind of way a detriment to those games, then I say move on and take care of the next big projects that you have, because those have to be right. Yeah. You can't screw up Dragon Age or Mass Effect again like you have, right? So those have to be right. If you get those wrong with these next big releases, then that's probably the end of BioWare, period, for me, I think, and what used to be the crowning jewel in game development has become just known as a subpar studio at that point.
And that was unfortunate as well, because the Anthem happened straight after Andromeda failed.
Yeah.
Which was
it's not a good look.
For BioWare, it wasn't. It just really, because everyone was like, right, okay, this is. I mean, Mass Effect. That's unfortunate. Andromeda with the hilarious facial expressions and everything that went along with that. They had so much bad press there, and then everyone was like, right, we understand why now, because they put so much effort into Anthem, and then Anthem released, and it was. It
just wasn't enough there, right? So it's like you can see the EA influence within BioWare now, right?
That's unfortunate.
The doctors that had started BioWare, the two guys, they had left. When the head guys leave and they are not in charge of the creative direction anymore, then you always lose what made that studio potentially great in the first place. And then instead you have what's left that they've created, which could be a shell of itself. So I hope that there's enough talent there to push through, and we see some amazing things, because if you go look back at what BioWare created with Mass Effect, with creating those characters that we can name today from Mass Effect 1, 2, or 3. We know the names of these characters from this trilogy. Like, they're such great characters, right? Like, and then you go into Dragon Age, and they made more amazing characters that people love in that series. And then to go in and have Anthem, and then freaking that Mass Effect Andromeda, like it's just like what's happening there. So I want them to find themselves again and come back. Now, whether I think Anthem could be a detriment to that and just be a waste of time at this point. As much as I want to play it, maybe pass Anthem on to another team.
Yeah.
That's what I would say. Okay, I think what BioWare had created is worthwhile of saving with Anthem and figuring that out. But I don't, with everything that BioWare has to create now, I don't necessarily want them to be the ones to do it. I think send it off to somebody that's maybe a games of service type expert, right? That can keep pumping out content quickly. That's what it needs. It doesn't need a base. They've got that. It needs frequent updates of content. They need a flow of content. That's all it needs now.
Yeah, I completely agree. The one problem I had with Anthem was you get to a certain point in the game where you then have to grind to get any further in the game. Like, it's an intentional grind as well. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people will get to that point in the game, and it's not that many missions in. It's maybe about 7 hours into it or something at most. And then it's just grind, right? Okay, you have to go here and collect this many things, to go here and collect this many things. And then each one of the doors that you had to go to, you had to do certain things to be able to open the doors. And it was like, but this is it's kind of a fetch quest, a glorified fetch quest for the game. And then the whole kind of implosion thing that they had, where I forgot what they actually called it, where it was like the storms that happened. That was... Again, it was kind of anticlimactic.
Yeah, I think the fetch quest stuff is filler.
Yeah.
You're trying to extend the length of what stuff you're supposed to do by making these unnecessarily long objectives, right? Well, that's kind of what it sounds like.
They've now failed with 2 big games in a row, although both had pretty decent initial sales just off the legacy of them being BioWare games. But they went from having 5 studio houses under BioWare, 3 major ones, 2 support studios. So now there's just one BioWare, and then there's BioWare in Austin that now does all the support, where they used to have 2 separate ones that did support for various games. So they don't really have somebody they can just hand it off to. And I can tell you right now what's going on. Okay. For a year and a half, they've been lying and saying, hey, we're rehauling it completely. No, they've not done no overhaul. It's now being decided whether they're going to do it or not. And they're going to base it off sales of the upcoming remaster. If that sells through the roof, then they're going to go back and continue that series of games. And it's not going to be like that one crappy one that failed. It's going to be like a number 4 or whatever, and so on. But they're basing that franchise going forward on this upcoming remaster, which, my God, it's using they didn't even change the engine. It's being put out. It's just barely a facelift. It's a res upgrades. All you're getting. You can't believe anything BioWare or EA says. They are a company that will lie about stuff. It's horrible. But all it is they're using the same Unreal Engine 3 and maybe some mechanics in the first games being fixed. Hopefully, we won't know for sure until it actually drops, which is pretty scary. Why haven't they showed us? Hey, look what we've done to fix the combat in the first game. But if this remaster collection doesn't do good, you're not going to get any more from that franchise. You're not going to get Anthem. I'm telling you right now, EA is basing both those franchises going forward, coming up off what the sales off are. This companies do crap like that, and it's sad that BioWare was once by Mass Effect 3. They had expanded to 5 friggin' major studios. They had over 1,000 developers working for them. Just that one part of EA, BioWare, was humongous, and now they're down to 300, 350, I don't know. But one major main studio, and then they got BioWare in Austin that does support for whatever the various different games. They're not assigned any one single game. But man, it's scary times for them. I'm telling you, because EA, they paid a lot of money for them, and they had some early success, but they haven't seen a lot of money back, and they're one more failure away from EA maybe just canking BioWare completely. I mean, all the good people, like you said, the main 2 owners left, and sometimes that happens, and new people step in, like Rare. They had a void with Rare after Microsoft bought them. For about 2.5 years, the main 2 guys there had to stay. That was part of Microsoft's contract. But the second that time limit came up, those bailed. And then Rare started making fucking Kinect games, and they were a shell of being a decent developer. They really had went total crap. And it took the guy running the company now. Well, he finally got appointed as the main dude, and he got them focused on Sea of Thieves, and love it or hate it. That was an amazing game, and it's ongoing, and they had to put it out because Microsoft was desperate. They wasn't ready. It needed another year. Okay,
this is a good example how you fix a game as a service.
Yeah, well, and there's other examples of that, like Rainbow Six Siege and the Division is a game. Although it wasn't so much content with Division, it was mechanics that had to be fixed. But they fixed all that. But I'm just telling you, BioWare, it's they are.
Well, it's very much who was the developer for Dead Space again as well? Because that's another company that
Visceral.
Visceral. That's another company that EA just canned. As soon as the third one just didn't do well.
Those people get spread out, get hired, so you can never bring that company back because you'll never get those same people. You could resurrect the name, but like the dude that made BioShock.
Yeah,
there's been lots of BioShock clones, and he's now finally back making a game, but it's not that's going to be the same. He had a team under him at that time making it, and you just once that stuff goes, it goes, and I think that's what happened to BioWare. They lost too many people, and even when they brought people back, sometimes you don't bring the right people back. That dude was not let's be honest, he wasn't one of the creative geniuses that did Mass Effect. When he went to Microsoft, he just wasted like a year and a half collecting a paycheck for them before he went back to help them, but he didn't do anything. And apparently I've heard reports that, and he's now left BioWare again, that when he came back to fix everything, he literally didn't do anything. He sat in his office every day for 8 hours a day and, stamped paychecks, and he ain't fixed nothing. And so sometimes you get the right guy. I think like with Halo, Microsoft bringing Joseph Staten back in. That dude lived and breathed Halo. Yeah. And even after he left, they kind of missed him. That was that was one of the losses that they never got over when Bungie left. I mean, he was one of those guys that was just, if he would have stayed, they would have been much better off. Now he's back, and I think that'll really show later this year when we finally get Halo. But and again, he has to use a lot of what was already made ahead of time, so I don't know how much he can do. I think it's quite a bit, though. I think it's going to be a special game. But when you lose people, they go to other companies and things, and then they're not run by the same people. Naughty Dog's a great example. Oh, the original dudes that ran Naughty Dog, they've been long gone. But luckily, the replacements that took over were geniuses too, that they had on staff that just stepped into those shoes and, had great ideals for games that was already on the board, and some games were already out and they were just making sequels to. But they top people. But some companies, it just takes one loss, that one creative driving force. Hey, look for the big fail is going to be with 2K and Rockstar for the biggest game of all time, the
Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah.
Grand Theft Auto. The main creative guy of the two brothers, he's gone. Yeah. Okay, he's gone because he wanted to make another game, and they wanted to milk Grand Theft Auto Online for another couple of years. And he said, "No, F that. If we're not going to let me make the next game, I quit." So he's gone. He's out the door, and he was the creative genius behind it. The brother that stayed was the money guy. Of course, the money guy wanted to keep Grand Theft Online going for as long as he could because it was rolling the money in. But the genius is gone. So when they finally have to make that next game, and remember, he was the one that was the creative force behind Red Dead 2. He's gone, right? And he overseen every single frame of both of those games, and Red Dead 1 and Grand Theft Auto, all of them. Every single frame of those games, that dude had to be approved by him. Every piece of dialogue that was done, every mocap that was done, he was right there. He was so hands-on. Now he's gone. So I'd be worried if I was a Rockstar, because when you lose your Rockstar, there's no guarantee that it'll be the same.
Yeah. Anyone knows what's he's up to right now? I mean, did he set up a new studio or something, or he's still on hiatus?
Nothing that I look all the time and try to research, and I can't find anything on him. People joke that he bought an island and he's just living the super filthy rich billionaire life of being the guy that created, Grand Theft Auto, and he still earns money off that. I mean, I'm sure his buyout deal, he's still getting plenty of money from it, but.
Yeah, there's literally nothing on what he's doing. I don't think he's joined anybody or went anywhere. I think he's just
no, he's not the kind of guy that's going to join anyone anyway. I mean, he's rock star. He was. He's gonna, if he did anything, he'd have to form his own company, and maybe he don't want to do that because his brother handled all the day-to-day minutia of running a company. The paychecks and the hiring and firing and all that, and was the money guy. He was the creative genius behind the games. So, yeah, I mean, it is what it is. But flipping it back to BioWare, I just think they lost some people that they were never able to replace with people as good. And it happens because a lot of people don't want to work for EA. And when, especially what actually happened, companies getting the axe, and then even within their own company, they had, the B team, making Mass Effect Andromeda. First of all, who made that kind of decision? Oh, our most important franchise, we're just going to let our B team, or not as good developers, make it. Wow. I mean, that's just mind-boggling, telling you that the right people wasn't running that company, and that's why Anthem didn't turn out like it was with no content. And they've had time. They literally could have fixed. Look at Sea of Thieves. And I actually, in a chat not too long ago, couple of dudes at work, at Rare, and are big time Sea of Thieves guys, were saying the majority of the stuff you see in Sea of Thieves now, that was all planned. They knew when they released that they didn't have the content, but Microsoft needed it out because of some other games that didn't come out and some games that got axed. So they put it out about a year early, but eventually all that content made it in, and it's you know, it does quite well for them. And I guess people are buying the parrots or monkeys or whatever it is you can buy to make money for
I buy it all.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
Support them. Just to support them, you know.
Exactly.
The game is still going. It's still so good, you know.
For every one thing they put in there you might have to buy, they put in 10 things that are just free.
Yeah.
It's
10 updates for free, and you buy one parrot for €5. I don't care. If that's is how I can support them, I will do it.
Done the same with Anthem.
It's the same why. It's the same why I'm a patron for this.
And then actually, for whatever you were grinding for, they could have made it much more worthwhile.
Yeah,
and they could have added stuff. They've had the time. They wasn't willing. EA is that kind of company. They're not willing to put money into a. If you look at games that came out not right and then got fixed later, that's never been an EA company.
But I liked Anthem the gameplay wise. You know, the mechanics were good. You know, like the combat and the flying parts and stuff. It's just what like Marion says, right? It's just too empty.
Yeah,
you were pretty much like if you were 10 hours, 20 hours in, you were done. You know, the fun was over.
I hate to use this word, but it was like it had no end game, and I hate the fact that games need an end game. I think you should be satisfied playing a game from point A to the end, and you're good. But that's not what people want. They want games to go on forever, and you got to have after your game's over, your game's got to be able to keep going on. So
happy ending.
I think it depends on the kind of game that you're creating, right?
Yeah,
so
if it's a live service game like Anthem or like Destiny or like Sea of Thieves, it has to have a continual road plan of content or missions or adventures or something to do, because when you get to that maximum level and you've done everything, then you'd literally just going in to play the game because you enjoy playing the game, not because there's actually anything to do in there. It's just to waste time. And that's one of the unfortunate things about Anthem is that end game comes so quickly and in Anthem that you've already got nothing to do in a very short period of time. Yeah. Whereas in Destiny, it's just ever expansive. They're already talking about what they're coming up to next. They've got seasons of this and seasons of that. Sea of Thieves has just done the same now with a brand new season that's launched with new adventures and missions and ways to earn things and get new.
Sea of Thieves has put out more content than even Destiny has. They, I think other than Fortnite, God, I hate, but yet Epic, they put so much content into Fortnite.
Sea of Thieves, like I think it's like every quarter now they have like a huge, massive update, right? And Destiny, actually going back to that, like they had the same problem after they launched. In the first Destiny game, there was a lack of content. People were waiting for the raid, or like, we were done with the story. There's not enough story here. What do we do? Yep. The difference is that Destiny fixed it quickly, where they had at least started getting stuff out and to retain that fan base. Whereas Anthem, they just kind of like abandoned it. Say, hey, we're going to go rebuild this thing, or come out with a 2.0, and now it's been however many months, right? And no information. And how did this even get out that they're going to have this internal meeting? Like how is that even that's like never been news before. Hey, EA is going to have an internal meeting to determine the future of Anthem. That's just weird to even hear.
Yeah, that's a news thing. Never working on 2.0.
But I will give EA credit for one thing. Recently, is how we say like, hey, they don't necessarily go and fix games and stuff like that. Recently, we've had a lot of these updates that they've released for Series X and PS5 on console, where Battlefield 5, Battlefront 2, Jedi Fallen Order all play amazing and have like 60 frames per second modes and way better than they ever did before. And like they've played and feel like new games now, which is a good thing. They didn't have to pay for it.
Twisting their arm. I think that's
maybe
those console manufacturers going to EA and saying, you're going to patch these damn games and blah, 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 and getting it done.
Well, I think it's good because it increases the value of stuff we've already bought in the past.
Yeah, right? It's great.
Where it keeps it playing good, because Battlefield 5 is great right now. So is Battlefront 2 and Jedi Fallen Order.
But I think everyone, the summary of this kind of Anthem discussion though is that the base of the game is they have something there. They had something there.
Yeah.
They had the lore. They had the gameplay, the mechanics down. The world was built well, but beyond that, there was nothing. I think probably Mav is right. If you're going to put maybe a B or a C team or somebody else to look after that rebuild in the background, then do that. As long as you're focusing on key franchises like Dragon Age and like Mass Effect that are going to ensure the longevity of BioWare and can rebuild that company if they succeed. If those two games don't succeed, then BioWare is done.
Yeah. The next one's Dragon Age. If that flops, and if it flops like Andromeda did, and after Anthem flopped, I don't know if there is going to be that next Mass Effect game. Like Dragon Age cannot fail.
Yeah, the Mass Effect remaster, it's got to sell, or trust me, they will not go into pre-production on the next Mass Effect game.
That thing's gonna sell just because people have so much nostalgia and love for Mass Effect.
I hope.
Yeah,
I'm just telling you, EA is probably already drawn that line in the sand. If you don't make X amount of money on this, you're not getting another Mass Effect game.
Yeah,
and it's gonna be the same like you said with Dragon Age. It's gonna have to hit those sales requirements, or they. And, and I understand that. I mean, Microsoft's the same way. Look how many games they put out with no sequels. They draw that line in the sand. If you don't make a certain amount of money, they just won't let you make a sequel. It's sad. There are Sony, and I'm not a big Sony fan, trust me, but they have been known to, when a game, as long as it's not a total loser, they'll make a sequel. Thinking, well, we can fix this, and that, and then boom, the sequel sells through the roof and they get their money back to make it all worthwhile. And if it don't, they kind of chalk it up as lesson learned on what not to do for certain games. But Microsoft's never been that way. They've always been the bottom line. And it doesn't matter how much, no matter what anybody says about buying this or buying that, they know. Microsoft knows every single time you either download it, and not just how many people have downloaded it or bought the physical copy. They know how much you've played. They track all your hours playing it. And Sony does the same thing, and they have all that data. And unfortunately, so does EA and so does Activision. And a lot of times, sequels to some of your favorite games are all based on the numbers. It kind of sucks. Yeah, completely agree.
We'll just have to wait and see. But I think, kind of summarized there, the overall is that they have a good foundation. Unfortunately, it didn't pan out for them. There is potential in that franchise to continue, but whether or not they put the mainline developers in charge of getting that sorted is another thing. I think Mav was right. Put maybe a B or a C team on that one and get that one potentially back up to scratch. In the background, start rolling out smaller content, but more frequently. Maybe small missions, anything just to get that game and their current loyal fan base kind of entertained whilst they kind of rehash things in the background, whilst making sure those key franchises really knock it out of the park when they launch. We will run into the second topic now, which is quite a straightforward one and a pretty short one, but we'll cover it anyway. And that is CD Projekt Red Hacked. So this was apparently to do with the internal, someone internally, either an ex-employee or someone kind of hacking them and potentially distributing or threatened to distribute these documents to everybody. Has everybody seen kind of what happened there?
They were pwned. Ain't that what the hacker said in his letter? Not boned with a B, but he said, you've been pwned.
Yeah. The sad thing about the whole story is that it happened to them second time.
Yeah.
I mean, they had a similar situation. I'm not saying that it was the same way of the hack kind of worked the same way, right? But they got hacked like twice already. So I would imagine that they've learned their lesson, but looks like they didn't. So, which is kind of sad because obviously right now is not the best. It wasn't the best time for CD Projekt Red generally in general. But good thing about it is that they're not going to collaborate with the hacker. They said basically fuck off, right? You're not going to do anything from us, and that's a good thing because once if you bow once, they will just keep at you all the time, right? So it's a sad thing because like I said, CG Projekt Red generally speaking don't have the best publicity right now, and it's kind of like I was like, not again when I first saw it. So yeah, I mean, listen, they just have to increase their security and stuff, right? I mean, I don't know what happened. Like you said, maybe it was an inside job, whatever, who knows. But whatever that was, they need to improve their security. And there's luckily no personal data got leaked, right? I mean, they don't have any really game as service or anything like that. But still, source code for games leaked and stuff, so still are not good look, really.
Yeah, it's server codes or source codes for Cyberpunk, Witcher 3, Gwent, and unreleased version of Witcher 3. I don't know what that is, whether or not that's the next gen versions. Dumped all of the documents relating to accounting, administration, legal, HR, investor relations, and more. Encrypted all of the servers, but we know that you can get that back via recovered backups. And obviously just trying to get them to kind of, I don't know whether it'll pay them money, but apparently according to CD Projekt, it was an unnamed actor. An unidentified actor gained unauthorized access to internal network. I don't know how an actor would get that information, whether or not it was one of their own actors. And even then I find that a little bit strange as to why it would be that disgruntled as to why you would want to do this. It's a very strange one, but because unfortunately it comes so soon after the mess with Cyberpunk, it's just an absolute knock-on effect. I don't know why or how they've kind of got themselves into a situation where they've been from the media darlings and doing everything kind of right with Witcher 3 and all of the content they produced to then Cyberpunk's mess on previous gen consoles. Of course, they weren't perfect on next gen either, and obviously we still haven't had the next gen patches yet, but at least it worked to a point. But it's just, should we say, a clusterfuck? It shouldn't have happened, and I don't know how the security is kind of laxed so much to the point where it's kind of got to that with these. Do you think there's anything internally that might have caused that issue? Anybody got any kind of theories on why it's got to that point for them, where internally actors are releasing or trying to kind of con them out of money?
I would have no idea why, but here's my thing: is who cares? Nobody's personal data. It's not like people have their credit card numbers. It's not like Sony getting hacked and people getting their credit card numbers given out worldwide, which happened to Sony. You got a secret game, maybe some info about your next game might get dropped. Companies themselves drop information about their secret games years and years in advance for publicity. So it's like, I'm shocked that anybody would be even dumb enough to think a company would pay them money to keep all this stuff from going to get out there. Who cares if they emails and things and HR information? It's like, really? No, you're not getting any money. F off.
Yeah. That's pretty much what they've said as well. No, you're not getting anything
happened
from
multiple times now with a lot of companies, and in each case, I always try to think, well, what would you have that would make you pay? And I've yet to see a single company have anything worth, again, unless it's personal information, or if they hacked them and they were stealing money from CD Projekt Red.
Yeah.
But if you were stealing money from them, you wouldn't need to blackmail them. You'd already have your money. So I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah. Definitely. Again, it's just an unfortunate year for CD Projekt so far, and again, it's just one thing after another for them.
Yeah.
You know what? The only thing which kind of worries me is that if that was an inside job, right? And I don't know how how that could have happened anyway. But like, even if you are working for a company, like they gain access to all kinds of like HR data, accounts data, and whatever, right? I mean, as far as I know, is that like, normally, like within the company, you've got like different access to different resources, right? It's not like, oh, you are part of the company, so you can access all the files and whatever, right? So yeah, it's just kind of just shows that they don't really have a good security level, even like inside the company, right? So I don't know. It's just kind of like, something for them to think about and rethink their, security.
Yeah.
I guess.
Especially if an actor can get a hold of that. I mean, it's not like it is an IT guy or some kind of like uber hacker. It's an actor.
No, I think the term actor just refers to a person.
Yeah.
An actor of bad faith is a person of bad faith.
Person taking action is.
It's not really a voice
actual actor.
Yeah. It's a person.
I was going to say I'd find it very hard to believe that an actor would be able to get all of that information.
Keanu Reeves is hacked.
Yeah.
CD Projekt Red.
Yeah, it is pretty ironic that the makers of Cyberpunk
are being hacked.
Are the ones being hacked, right?
No,
they made the game too good. People learned too much how to hack. Right?
We'll get on to the next topic then, a little bit more in keeping with our good old traditions, and that is
E3
2021, remaining all digital this year, and of course plans are already in the way to get that up and running for having digital showcases over a 3-day term. Of course, we had to deal with E3 being all digital. We were kind of hoping things would get back to some normality this year, but they haven't started that way. We've found ourselves worldwide still in lockdowns, if not more harsh lockdowns that we had last year. So, I mean, automatically when I seen that it's remaining, it was kind of, we could see it coming, but didn't really want it to happen. We kind of wanted one of those in-person E3s again. I think the hype around these actual conference center E3s and conferences is much greater than that of digital-only events. I want to hear kind of your thoughts on kind of what we're expecting this E3 to be like this year. Are we expecting Microsoft to really step up and go above and beyond? Because obviously last year, and it only feels like 2 minutes ago, Microsoft's first E3 conference wasn't really hitting it, and then they learned and then did another conference a couple of weeks later. Do we think we're going to get that kind of thing again this year? Are we going to get Sony doing 1, 2, or 3 different conferences and Microsoft doing 1, 2, 3 different conferences? Or are we going to get both companies just doing one really big digital conference each? What does everybody think? We'll start with Shom this time around. Shom, what's your thoughts on this?
I kind of hope they go to a traditional E3, but just digitally. Like, the whole thing last year was painful, getting dripped information over the course of, 2-3 months, something like that?
Yeah.
It's just like whenever it's announced, but there wasn't really any excitement anymore. It's just like, all right, fair enough. Right, I'll watch a conference. What is it, Friday?
Keighley is still doing its Summer of Games, so we're still going to get that.
Who's doing that?
Jeff Keighley.
Good grief. You see, that's the thing with Jeff, is that I think he cocked up. I think he could have really have cornered the market, because I think E3, who is it that runs E3? What's the company?
E3.
ESA.
ESA.
Yeah, ESA.
I think they were on their knees, and I still think they are to a certain extent. But if Jeff Keighley had managed to rope everybody in and go, right, we'll do it over a 3-week period, then I think it could have worked. But the way he handled it, I was bored. I wasn't excited. Or once Microsoft had their conference, once Sony had theirs, it was everything was boring. Like, I wasn't bothered about EA. I wasn't bothered about Ubisoft. I just thought I'll catch up in my own time, and I don't have to sit through the conferences. I can just go from game to game to game.
Yeah.
So, and from what if I remember what I read correctly, they're charging, is it 6 figures for people to be involved in the digital event?
Yeah.
Screw that. If it's digital, do it yourself. Just do it at the same time.
Yeah. That's a bit strange. I haven't even read that. That's I don't think that I'm not sure how that would work, because Microsoft and Sony both did their own conferences last year.
Anybody, even a small company, like Devolver. Well, Devolver's not really small, is it? But they could do their own thing and save themselves 6 figures. They'll just do it at the time.
Which they've been doing that anyway. Right?
So it's just kind of, it doesn't make sense to me. I can't get my head around what they're actually trying to do.
Well, they got to try and make money somehow. So that's what they're trying to do, is figure out a way that we can still make some money here and stay afloat as this business, whatever they are. I mean, I don't even really know what they are, you know. But I
guess they don't have
guess
that much to make, because they don't have the outgoings of hiring the convention centers and things like that.
But they so I could see Microsoft doing this just to say they're doing it and to, because 100K is not much for them, right? Like if they see any kind of value in keeping it afloat, they, I think, could be behind this, and then maybe a couple other people get mixed in here. But as far as E3 itself being anything right this year, I think you could just anticipate that E3 is not a real thing right now, right? I mean, whether Microsoft says they're at E3 with this digital event or not, it doesn't really mean anything. And unless you actually have the huge convention, like you're saying, and have booths set up where people go and attend, it's not E3. Anybody can have hey, we have something going on YouTube right now. You know, anybody can do that, including a company that puts their own producers and their own people behind it and invest in their own money to create some kind of marketing event. So I can see some bigger companies kind of just getting behind it just because, right? Yeah. But as far as like any kind of reason to, it would be for long-term plans to keep it afloat as opposed to it being anything meaningful. Well, however, I will say this. I didn't mind last year. I did miss E3, but I was on pins and needles last year for like 6 months thinking anything could happen at any time because of that drip feed of content where we had like multiple events and stuff, like constantly anticipating. I kind of liked that. I kind of liked like waking up at like 9 a.m. and seeing that Xbox bought Bethesda and like, what the freak happened? You know, I kind of liked having all of these weird things just happen. Like every Monday was like, what's going to happen today? What's going to happen today? You know, that was pretty fun. I think, you know, it made for good podcasting. That's for sure.
It extends that out. But for me, it's kind of, I like the whole kind of, you have a conference and then you have like 4 or 5 hours to digest what you saw, whether it was good or bad. And then you're like, oh, great, we're into Ubisoft. Oh, you know, watch that. Oh, it wasn't so great this year. And then you're into the next thing and the next day.
It's a spectacle. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's
the Super Bowl of games.
There will be an E3 again eventually, but when they canceled it last year, that's when they actually canceled this year's too. They said, Microsoft said they wasn't going to go to any physical conferences until like August of this year. So that killed E3 basically. But when that ESA pulled out or canceled it left a vacuum, and dudes like Jeff Keighley tried to fill it with his summer of garbage. And then Microsoft did their own little show, and Sony did their own little show, and it kind of all worked for everybody, but nobody really liked it as much as having the big E3. And so the E3 themselves, the ESAs announced they're doing a digital thing this year. That's what got messed up last year when they canceled. They didn't realize that somebody would take their place. And there was multiple people that basically took the place of E3, whether it was Microsoft themselves or Sony themselves or Keighley trying to. There was digital shows. So they're saying we're going to do a digital show this year. It's going to cost X amount, and they're lining up people for it. And I think Microsoft will be at whatever the ESA does during their E3 digital thing. Microsoft's also already said they're doing their own digital stuff throughout the year. That's not changing. Now, maybe next year they'll get them all back into one big one. But once that cat got let out of the bag last year, and you're right, I think it was Matt that said you kind of like that little, hey, we got this information this day, we got this announcement, we got this, hey, we got a show about this stuff. Whereas it used to be you only had a handful of major shows throughout the year, and then the one big main one, E3, where a ton of stuff was announced. But the way the industry works, you didn't really need E3s anymore. That was always to let people see what games were going to be coming, so they knew what they had to carry, advertise for, and there'd be all those backroom meetings at it. It was never even meant for the public anyway.
Yeah.
And then they started airing them over the internet, and the popularity kind of blew up. And then we'll just let fans in all the time. And yeah, I got it and all that, and it's cool. And I love E3 for what it was. But the truth is, these companies didn't really need it anymore. It makes more sense for them to do shows on an as-needed basis. And I think that's going to continue on. But I think you will see a big E3 event next year. How successful it'll be, I don't know. And if it's not, then it may go away forever. But they are planning for that, for a physical E3 next year. But this year, everybody's still doing digital because of the virus. But it's some weird stuff. But I kind of like the drips and drops of info throughout the year. It would have been horrible if they would have waited all the way till this June to announce the Bethesda deal so they can announce it at E3. I mean, think about it. It's only going to get fully approved sometime in March. And by the way, it's not when the EU, which Microsoft don't give a fuck what the EU says, by the way, if you want to know the truth. But they got to play nice with them. They don't want somebody within the EU saying, oh, you can't release these games there, or I have problems with them. But they're waiting for in the US, the FCC, to sign off on it. And in both cases, the EU and the FCC, they don't go up against big companies like this anymore. They let them do whatever they want to do. The days of big companies, and evil corporations being held in check has long been over. So that it's a done deal, but it's going to be probably late March, I think, before the FCC signs off on it. It's early March, the 3rd is when the EU's doing it, but it's still not been approved by the FCC. And unlike the EU, the FCC don't pick a date saying this is when we're going to do it. They just kind of mull over and go over the paperwork and all the dirty details until they decide to approve it or not. So it's end of March, early April. That's only May, June. That we could have had to wait 2 more months to actually before we'd even known about it. That's the old way. People now, they just, hey, yeah, we're doing this.
I don't think the lack of E3 or having an E3 really stops any big announcements for game studios. I think the whole Bethesda, or the ZeniMax, should I say, I think that whether there was an E3 or not would have happened roughly that time anyway, because they wanted
you're right.
Launching of the Series X. They wanted
they wanted that out right before pre-orders.
Yeah, it's a boost. It wasn't an accident that they announced it. Was it the day before pre-orders went live?
Yeah, it was. Pre-orders there.
Yeah. So I don't think that was an accident. I think what E3 is good at, and I kind of hope it doesn't go away, because it's probably the only convention that really brings gaming to the mainstream. It's when you get like BBC News reporting on E3 and all other news companies rather than just your IGNs, GameSpots, and that ilk.
Yeah, there's no movie crap or TV show crap like at a Comic-Con. This is just games, and it's a good thing.
What I did read though is that they might be doing what they did with the I think it was the Game Awards, where they're having demos.
Yes, yeah.
Demos.
Yeah.
I hope they're better than the last ones. I didn't really see anything apart from Song of Iron on there that I really actually fancied playing. So hopefully they've actually got some AAA games, or at least demos. What you'd actually play on the floor is what I want, or what I'd like to see, is games that if you actually attended the convention that you'd actually be playing. And I actually think that they should be doing that anyway. For those that can't get out, you can't get out there. And
that's the way it worked before. That was almost monthly. There was a gaming convention somewhere, and they would always have stuff on the floor.
Lots of patches about and everywhere.
By the time you got to October, November, all those games have been seen at multiple conventions, but they'd be like a new version where they tightened it up a little bit before the game actually launched. And that was always pretty cool. But after this whole virus crap, it may never go back to that 100% because some companies just can't afford that what it costs to send 30 people from your studio is now no longer working on a game or no longer keeping the infrastructure of your company going. You're flying them out to a convention when you can just do a digital show and show it off. And yeah, it may never be the same again, but we'll see. I hope E3 bounces back great and they do one next year. Because everything people always talks about missing it, but who doesn't talk about missing it is Microsoft, Sony. And Sony had already given up on E3. People forget Sony's talking about that. They'd already quit the 2 previous ones they went at. So they've now missed. This will be their 4th year in a row. There's been no E3 with Sony there. So I'm like, Sony don't about it. But Phil has said he believes in the big one gaming event per year, and so hopefully, and they've not announced it yet on how much they're supporting this E3 version of the digital thing this year. Because you got to remember last year when the ESA said no E3, okay, that was it. They left that void, and you had Keighley announced his summer of garbage, and there was actually a couple other ones said we'll be doing these events. And Microsoft did their show, actually did 2 right close together, and Sony did theirs, and it was all leading up to the consoles being dropped. But that was an outlier year anyway because it was a console drop year. This 21's back to everything's kind of back to normal, except will they do any of these conferences? Because Microsoft had said they're not going to go to any until at least after August, and even then it's not a done deal. They have to reevaluate what's the situation in the world with COVID and all that. So, but I hope they go back to it. And even before they were E3, back when they were part of the CES, that's where E3 started at. And I actually was living it, and they were doing it in LA. I got to go to a couple of them, and they put the games out in the parking lot. It was so embarrassing. You had all these TVs and stereo equipment inside in the booths, but all the gaming companies, all their crap was outside under tent things, and it was pretty embarrassing because you had like big, dudes running EA and Microsoft were out in the parking lot in these tents. And I think that's when they all kind of got together and said, no, we need to have our own show. And that's where EA or E3 became its own animal. And then they moved it to Vegas. But which was funny because then CES moved to Vegas right after them. And because E3 blew up and became way bigger. But hey, I miss that stuff. I got to go to one, and it was 2 of them in fact, and it was pretty awesome to talk to gaming executives and go from booth to booth to booth and see different stuff that was going to be coming out throughout the year. But so let's hope E3 comes back strong.
Yeah, really, really wanted to be fair, because again, like you say, last year it was just spread over too many days. Like Sony had 2-3 conferences, Xbox had 2-3 conferences. Nintendo did their own thing as usual, always do, Treehouse Live, but even then theirs was very subdued. And then everything else was kind of just hit or miss with Jeff Keighley. It was kind of all over the place. You don't really know what was when and who or where. So hopefully with this E3 digital conference, it goes back to some kind of structure where Xbox is on a certain thing. Again, Sony probably won't be, but they'll be there or thereabouts that particular time frame, do their own thing. But Xbox is on there, then you'll have Bethesda potentially just after Xbox or in the Xbox conference. And then you've got EA and you've got all of the different kind of subsidiaries and other third-party developers going as well, Ubisoft, etc. As long as there's structure, it can work on a digital format. But I think the way Jeff Keighley did it, where it was spread out too far, I think people just lost interest. And the vast majority of us just tuned out.
Yeah, and all those conferences, yet they dropped the fucking excuse my language, they dropped these consoles. Neither company had a new game. Okay, no, Sony did not have a new game. I'm sorry. They had a remake of an old game, and it might have been good, and then they had DLC for Spider-Man. No, that's BS. And Microsoft didn't have any. At least Sony had something. But we had all these shows leading up to it, thinking we were going to get, and we didn't get none of it. But finally, we got just Medium the other day. what was it, 2 weeks ago, whatever it dropped. That was great. Finally, something from one of those conferences I got to play. That was a new game, brand new. Because again, and I thought Miles Morales was amazing, but I finished it in like 6 hours. And I played it on the PS4, but not 8, not 10. I knocked it out in like 6 hours in one evening. I was like, I'm not even a good gamer. My God. If somebody says they take 30 hours to finish the game, that usually takes me 50 or 60.
Yeah.
So that was just DLC, no matter what they say. And it was still cool with Sony. I got it. The DLC was being worked on. And then they were like, oh crap, our new console's coming. We don't have a banger. We'll just take this DLC, stretch it out a little bit, call it a game. Good, great, whatever. It's fine. It really is a good game. I'm not knocking on the game. I'm just saying we had all these shows, and then they dropped the consoles and what was with them. I mean, Microsoft literally nothing. They only had 30 games day one, yeah. But none of it was new. None of it was next gen. Medium is the first thing we've gotten. So, yeah, and I don't even know you can blame all that on the virus stuff. So there's been companies make games from home. What's the name of the company that makes Ori?
Moon Studios.
Yeah, they've been doing their games from home forever. You'd think somebody would have picked up the phone and said, hey, because of this damn virus, all of our programmers have to do this from home. What do we need to do? But apparently nobody did that because games, all these delays. 2020 was a dead year.
Well, I did hear some, I can't remember who said it, about the fact that these companies that do have predominantly remote things is that games are being pushed because normally they would go to them and go, can you do this, this, and this for us? But now everybody's trying to get these companies to do things, and there aren't enough of them. Whereas normally they do it themselves, and everybody just going, right, let's go to these people, let's go to that people. So there just aren't enough developers who are used to working remotely.
Yeah, I don't think it should be that difficult to work remotely. I mean, big manufacturing plants had to go to skeleton crews, and like all their management was actually working from home, and those companies went right along. Nobody,
Yeah, a lot of it was mocap and orchestra work, and then all this other kind of stuff that they couldn't do.
Deal with actors, they're kind of, mamby-pamby, whatever you want to call it. They've got strong unions, put it that way. And so they can get away with saying, no, we're not doing this. We can't be within 6 foot. We're not doing it. When dudes working in factories making beer or soda or car parts, them places never shut down. You were still, right next to that guy that you've always been next to. And those companies went right on. But I don't know, because of the art part of games and that kind of stuff, they were too special to keep working. I don't know. I just thought it was a lot of crap. I'm like, no, you're getting paid way more money than some guy at a beer plant. You're going to show up and you're going to keep making the game.
I think a lot of different states had different regulations and stuff.
Yeah.
Right? So that just creates a lot of the problems.
Yeah, don't even get me started. There's places now that don't make you wear your mask when you go in. And I'm like an old guy and had health problems, and it freaks me out to walk into, say, a Walmart, and they let motherfuckers in with no mask on. I'm like, why? You don't like wearing a mask? Well, tough shit. Get over it. Grow up. It says on the door, you can't come in without a mask. Yet they let them in because they're afraid to turn one single customer away. We might lose one $2 sale or $5 sale, whatever, for a pack of cigarettes. So they're not going to tell them no, you can't come in. Or even better, give them a free mask. But no, that would cost them think about how big Walmart is. So you'd get it down to like a half a penny per mask if you just had them at the door to hand people. But no, they're not going to spend that money. We should not be talking about this stuff on a gaming show. I'm sorry. The world's worst at getting people off into left field.
But with like the mocap and stuff, I would rather them delay a game than risk anyone and their families getting the virus.
So I have to go to work in some place. I think
that's
working at home. I know Mads goes to work every day. You're working. Does everybody where you work wear masks? Do they do the right thing, Mads?
No, I work from home, so.
Oh, okay. So you are working from home. Never mind then.
I work every day, constantly.
Yeah, my son goes in. He works at a plastics plant. He goes to work every day, and I bitch him constantly. I'm like, "You wearing your mask at work? Do other people?" And he just kind of shrugs it off.
Yeah, I'm a doctor, and we have this vital profession, so we need to keep going on, and we wear our mask if needed to protect the elder, So.
Yeah, that's me. I want me protected. The place I work.
How old are you? How old are you then?
Work with, they all have to wear a mask. But
you're not that old, right?
It's always about Mojo.
Hey, just like gaming is a selfish hobby. I could be selfish about my health. This past year, I had heart failure and a stroke.
Yeah, that's.
Oh, really?
Really, and I'm looking to be alive. I'm sitting here with a little orange ball. After a stroke, that's what they gave me. He's like, "Here, squeeze this," and that's.
But how old are you then?
After you have a stroke, they'll put you on a blood thinner, which the one they put me on caused me to break out. I had like hives or rashes or whatever you want to call it. So I'm not even on a blood thinner after having a stroke. So I sat around with a ball.
How old are you then?
I'm 58.
You're 58.
I'm 58. And actually, if I was shaved, I wouldn't even look as old as I look. I look really bad when I don't shave.
You look like a gray Hulk Hogan.
But I know when I'm all shaved, I don't look nearly as old as I do with this half kind of. But I don't work, so it's like, why shave?
Hey Mojo, who let you in? No makeup and.
Standard out there at the moment.
When the show started, and I kind of looked up and was like, crap. Everybody's got their camera on. I'm like, I'm not gonna old man or not. I don't care.
I came out of my shit.
All these toys and stuff. And I have toys too, but mine are in front of me. If I turn my little laptop around, I can show off crap. It's kind of
Oh wow.
Yeah, I've got stuff. I got crap. But anyway.
You've got the Sega arcade mini, I see.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh man.
Yeah, like I was dragged us all into that Saturn conversation. Yeah, I love that thing. And there's another guy that sells one of these. It's called Multi Video System, MGS, Multi Game System. And he sells one of these. They're like double the size of this. And it plays every arcade type game, not just Sega. But he put it in a Astro City cab. But it's pretty cool. But I'm not even going to go into the price on this. Was cheap. The one it sells was a small fortune.
Well, if you want to get it to Holland, it's even more expensive. We don't have that stuff here. We need to import it, and it's really expensive.
I got into the minis or the classics, you call it. I got them all now, and I don't know why. I just.
Well, I'm still waiting for the mini Dreamcast. Just to add to the collection.
See, I'm the opposite. I'm waiting for a mini Saturn. I'm like, screw the Dreamcast.
Oh yeah.
Saturn. All them 2D fighters and 2D shumps they had on the Saturn.
Oh yeah.
Great for it, but I just don't think enough people even know what the Saturn was. They'll probably jump in and do it, Dreamcast, which is fine. There were a ton of great Dreamcast too.
Yeah, we miss Sega.
Well, that's what Xbox is for, they say anyway, right?
Well, they should make a deal now.
They basically became Sega after Sega.
Yeah, but
on the subject of Sega, I was really like thinking about Sega and like even Xbox buying the Sega and stuff. But like recently, I was like, do they really have any IP that would really sell like currently?
Altus makes or Atlas, whatever you want to call that.
Yeah, you have Outrun, you have Shining Force, you have Skies of Arcadia, Jet Set Radio, Crazy Taxi. They have plenty of IPs. Golden Axe, Panzer Dragoon.
That's all old IPs. Like Golden Axe. I think that it got even like a remake a couple of years ago. I think.
Yeah, are you going to spend $50 million to make a Golden Axe like God of War? You could.
Yeah.
But will they? That's a lot of money to invest. You got to realize we're gamers. We want everything. Oh yeah, do that and make it just like God of War.
Yeah, but
God of
like,
War had a massive budget.
look at even Shenmue, right? Like Shenmue was one of the biggest like games that Sega made, and like they made Shenmue 3. Did it sell well? Not really,
No.
right? So
Crap.
But it's not even put on Xbox, right? So you see what the medium did with Game Pass. What if you bring games like Shenmue 3 to Game Pass or Persona 5? We're still waiting for it, but now you have Persona 5 Strikers. It's coming to all
Right
systems
now, I
except
know
Xbox.
for a fact Persona is coming to Xbox. They haven't announced it yet, but all of them. They're going to release a bunch of the older ones. The
Yeah,
ones not even called Persona. I can't think.
It's Persona 4 Golden Arena, right? That's Persona 4 Golden. That's coming to Xbox. I know.
They're all going to
They
be coming.
teased that, but
Just like all the Final Fantasies came and all the Yakuzas
Yeah.
are coming. They're almost already there. There's still a couple more Yakuzas coming, but it's the same. They signed that deal a year and a half ago. They've just
hope
not
so.
released them yet because they've got timed releases to get stuff out into Game Pass, but all that's coming.
But you know Final Fantasy 16, right? It's going to become 2-year exclusive on PlayStation 5, I think. 2 years
Yeah,
or 1 year.
there's nothing you can do about that. I think it's 2 years.
if that game is going to be as good as Final Fantasy 15, they can keep
Yeah.
it forever.
Yeah.
I love 15. I'm sorry, man.
Yeah,
it was all right, but nothing special, in my opinion.
that whole buying games exclusive stuff's garbage, but there's nothing you can do about it. If Sony wants to go that route, that's their right. And but
Well, business is business, you know. So if everybody's doing well, you know, Microsoft, Sony, Nintendo, competition is good.
Yeah.
You know, Xbox is doing all these good things now for us because you know they were behind. Sony won. Let's be honest. PlayStation 4, and Xbox is trying to get us back. You know, so I like to keep it this way.
As long as they're trying hard, exactly, doing what they need
Yeah.
to do to continue. So, speaking of which, trying hard, the next topic, which is the rise of high-quality independent Chinese developers. So, with this in mind, very recently we have seen games like Bright Memory Infinite, Black Myth, and Projekt GT. So, again, we have seen, and I'm going to play some of these right now as well, just so you can kind of see what I'm talking about here. I'm just going to share screen. There we go. We're talking about, this one's the new Black Myth trailer here.
Oh yeah, I've seen that.
So this is the most recent one from what is it? What's the developer called for Black Myth? Is it
Game Science?
Yeah, Game Science. So again, for me, it's the. I'll turn the volume up for a little bit. There we go. Don't know whether or not you can hear that.
No, I can't hear any sound.
you know, they do an annual show over there that highlights Chinese game developers. Daniel Ahmed, who's all over Twitter, and he's mostly a Sony guy, a pony promoter, but he covers that show every year. And for the last couple of years, he's really talked about the fact that a lot of these companies they're finally going to get Western releases for a lot of these games, that they've gotten so much bigger. And they get, here's the thing that some American and European companies can't always compete with. They get subsidized by the Chinese government. They get so much money. So yeah, it's a different world out there now.
It's just insane, the quality on these games as well for these independent developers to push out.
Well, they've been making money off cell phone games for so many years, some of these developers, and they've made a lot of money, and now they're getting money from their government. They're putting their own money back into these games, and they're looking to get their games out into other markets, not just stuck on a phone or stuck on a PC.
Is this also coming to consoles then, this game?
This is coming to everything, but it hasn't really been announced what specific platforms it's coming to yet.
Oh.
You know what? The whole situation with China and these Chinese developers reminds me of Polish developers. Because, if 20 years ago, there was hardly any Polish developers that you would guys know about. there was quite a few developers in Poland, but these would make games like for Polish audience, and these titles would be really like a low budget title, so obviously the quality wasn't really great either, right? Although there were some good games even back then. However, like, selling a game, to like a Western audience or something, that was a totally different challenge for Polish developers. Now, obviously, they got a little bit of expertise releasing those smaller games for Polish audience, and then they started hiring people from outside of Poland as well to get more more experience and that kind of stuff. And eventually these developers grew, right? And like right now there's quite a lot of good Polish developers right now that releases games outside Poland as well, right? So I think it might have been because like I remember like when you guys were like having all kinds of like, because let's face it, even like 30, 40 years ago when those very first studios were starting, they were rather small companies and that kind of stuff, right? I remember like, Ultima Online, I mean, not online, but the first Ultimas and those first games back in days, these were like made in garage sometimes, right? I was reading about these like old titles for like Commodore 64 or like Amiga, whatever, right? Some of them, at least. So these titles were made mainly for by like small teams of a couple of people, 15, 20 sometimes, right? But these titles, so basically you guys started making those games and getting more expertise on development and that kind of stuff like 30, 40 years ago, while with Polish developers that started like 20 years ago, right? So that's why it took us a little bit longer to get to that level as well. And I think that's what's happening with China as well. They finally got a little bit of expertise, just like somebody said that they were making a lot of games for mobile phones and stuff for so many years. So now they are putting all that expertise and extra money they've earned into those bigger projects. And that's actually super exciting, because if you really think about how many people is in China and how many potential developers we're talking about, right? There might be quite a lot of games, and I think that what's interesting about that kind of developers, like independent developers for the most part, I would say, at least for now, is that we're probably going to get quite a lot of unique games, right? I'm really looking forward to see more from them, to be honest with you. So
I think Tencent's got a lot to do with it too, because they've bought into so many Western companies now and own like 3%, 10%, 5% of so many different companies that now they can pull games out of China and get released in other places. Whereas even like 3-4 years ago, they couldn't get, none of these games were getting releases outside of China. And the thing is, even in China, they're not the ones going to be playing this. I know there's the biggest population in the world, but they still have that repressive government. That's why they played so many on phones, because even China couldn't keep cell phones out of their people's hands. So they were able to play games on phones where they wasn't allowed to buy Xbox 360s and PS3s. Now with the 4 and the Xbox,
but that's changing, and that's the interesting thing, that like China is opening to like generally speaking.
But they just announced the PlayStation 5 being available there.
Exactly, yeah.
PS4 exactly. And the Xbox One, they allowed those consoles in, but it was limited numbers, not what they really needed. Hopefully, with the Series X and the PS5, hopefully they'll kick that door wide open, and they'll get more consoles, because that's why so many of the gaming houses in China were just doing cell phone games, because that's what everybody played, was stuff on their phone, and PC to a point too, because PCs have just like in Korea, Japan, and particularly Korea, you go to internet cafes, which have a totally different meaning in the rest of the world than what they are in some of these Asian countries. I mean, people go to internet cafes to go play games like what you're looking at on the screen. And they log in and they play, and then when they might be there for hours, and they go home because they don't have a computer at home. They go to these places to play games, and
that's not entirely true anymore.
Well, I lived for a few years in Korea, so I know it's still going on there. It's not changed. There is literally an internet cafe on every freaking corner.
Oh, in Korea, but in China,
Yeah.
it's becoming quite big. I mean, Minecraft is huge in China. So is Ark Survival Evolved.
Yeah.
These are huge games in China, and this is where I think if Microsoft can play the cards right, they've got a massive revenue stream with xCloud.
But what I'm getting at, even in China, people aren't playing these games that are big hits at home. A lot of them still have to go to internet cafes to play, but it doesn't matter where they play. It's where do they have access to a PC or not? And they do. They don't. You can't go to an internet cafe and play an Xbox or a PlayStation.
Not console wise, but a lot of my students play on PC. I teach Chinese students. I teach them English. That's what my job is. And a lot of the time, so what you're doing after class, they go, I'm going to go play Minecraft. I'm going to go play Ark. And so it isn't just internet cafes. I think there's been a huge boom in PCs in China. Yet there is going to be limitations within what they can play.
It's a financial type thing. If they got enough money to pay for like lessons in foreign languages, then they're going to have more money than the average Chinese Joe. That
definitely.
I'm talking about the masses still have to use internet cafes, but the point is they have access. Their government's not restricting them. They restrict the internet, as in if somebody puts content on the internet they don't like, they'll shut it off or get rid of that particular content. But they haven't killed the internet, and games are still widely available. And and hopefully they'll finally realize that gaming consoles aren't evil either, and those will start making it into homes. I mean, let's face it, all these bootleg consoles that have been out forever are all made in China, but yet they don't sell their own crap there. It's like
you can still use your consoles there. When I was there teaching, I took my Xbox with me, and I could play games no problem. I could download games no problem. So the whole thing with when they say about the Great Wall is basically it's almost like a huge intranet within China. And it's, unless you've got a VPN, it is really hard to get stuff out. And even then, it's just like, it's almost like trying to connect to the outside world is almost like, what is it? What was like the first internet? You know, when you got your screen, it's going chink, chink,
dial-up.
Chink, dial-up. Yeah. It can be like, I was trying to find resources for some of my classes when I was lesson planning, and sometimes trying to find stuff took about 20 minutes. I'd go off and do something before my page loaded. But yeah, I think gaming will become very, very big in China. And I think the proof is these studios. They wouldn't bother with these studios if gaming wasn't going to be a big part of China going forward. I mean, they're being set up in expensive places, Shenzhen, and where's the other one? What was it? I've written it down somewhere. Guangzhou and Shenzhen, I think it is, which are not cheap places to live. Hangzhou and Shenzhen. So these are tier 1 cities. So these are your Londons, your New Yorks.
No, yeah, Singapore and Hong Kong. Well, Hong Kong's actually part of China now, but they let it run kind of separately still. But it's but the bottom line is it's still part of China, and
but they're expensive cities. So it's they're expecting to make money from these. These aren't set up in backward places in order to save money. They're set up in metropolises to attract top talent. And it wouldn't surprise me if soon, maybe not in the next couple of years, but soon, whether you start getting international talent moving over to China to work with these companies.
Yeah, Tencent is one of the largest gaming companies in the world already. And of course, the truth about Tencent is they don't operate that much in China. They're mostly out of Singapore and several other Asian places that are outside of China. Although the main guys that founded Tencent are all Chinese, and they're part of that elite billionaire Chinese elite thing that's been going on the last probably like a decade, through real estate and other things, which really boomed over there, and those guys made so much money, and they invested in gaming, and because of a company like that getting that big and making that much money, the government's not going to want to stop that. They like that because they get their cut, and I think we're going to get some really good games. It just takes time, and like I say, they do that show every year. I don't know what time of the year it is. I think it's before the Tokyo Game Show, or it might be just after it. But the only one ever reports on it's that Daniel Ahmed. But he usually, during the 3 days that it goes on, he tweets about it and talks about various games. And there's usually 1 or 2 games that he's announced that was going to be released in the West each year. But it's like more and more every year, like coming from that. And hopefully that'll be a show maybe that they'll like start showing on the internet and you can watch and stuff. Well, I guess it'll all be in Chinese, so it wouldn't matter. Unless they actually, they got big enough where they sent people over there and from whatever countries and whatever language and did the shows. But it'd be interesting because that's the next big market, no doubt.
Well, yeah, 100%. We'll just have to see how it all pans out, most definitely. And I'm going to wrap up the show there for this evening. Thank you everybody for coming along this tonight, and thank you for our awesome mix mash of panel that came along last minute for me to make up for the fact that our panel disintegrated throughout the day. But yeah, thanks a bunch to everybody who turned up, both in the chat and of course on our panel. So we'll start doing our outros here. First of all, we'll start with bottom right. So we'll start with Mojo. Thanks very much for coming along there, brother. If you just let people know where to find you and what you'll be up to.
Yeah, appreciate you having me. On Saturday nights at around 8 p.m., I do a couple-hour show with a guy called the Gaming Werewolf. And the name of the podcast is actually Best Damn Xbox Podcast, BDXP, but it's not crazy enough, it's not an Xbox podcast. It's everything. Just like I kind of got you guys talking about other stuff today. That's what we do. Just 2 guys talking about games, movies, pop culture, you name it. We missed a few episodes because of my health, and I had some internet issues a couple of weeks ago. But last Saturday we did the show, and then here in a couple of days we'll be doing it again. So that's going to be an ongoing thing. It's a lot of fun. And then Mads is hopefully bringing his show back, and hopefully I'll get to be on it. Next Gen Podcast or whatever he ends up calling it. And other than that, I'm on Twitter because I got lots of times, guys, a lot of time these days. I went from working 12 hours a day for many, many years overnight from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. in the morning, making friggin' soda. It was weird, but working like a dog. And then now because of health, I can't work at all. And wow, yeah, I got time to fool around with stuff.
What's your pension age in America then?
Now what?
Your pension. When does it start in America?
I'll start getting Social Security in a few years, but I'm retired from the U.S. military. I did 25 years in the Air Force. That's how I lived all over the world. How I've been to China, and I lived in Korea, and I've been everywhere. But I get my retirement from there is like a little about $2,400 a month. Which isn't much, but it's enough. And then I'll get probably close to that same amount in Social Security here in a few years. So my income will almost double. And I've put in for a medical, what they call a disability through Social Security. And that'll be based on all my factors, will be a little over $3,000 a month if I'm approved. And then with my military retirement, I'd be pulling in, a little over $5,000 a month. That's pretty good for I ain't got to work. But you can't guarantee the Social Security until you get to your right age. I'm guaranteed. When I hit 63, I'll file a couple years early. So I'm 58 now, so I still got 5 years before I'm guaranteed to get that money. But
I've got 33 years to go. So
you don't know. You just file, and then if they turn you down, you refile. You might even have to get a lawyer to try to get that money. But But just like my military retirement, I do fine. And all those years I worked at Pepsi, I had what they call a 401k where I put it in. So I'm sitting on more than enough money to go buy a house. Right now I pay rent. I just live in an apartment, but because I don't know if I want to live here. I want to wait and see where my kids end up settling down. Because I got one son married with a grandchild they're in Germany right now.
Oh yeah.
Youngest son's with me here. He's actually lives at home and he works at, like I said, a factory. And we have a pretty good arrangement. I'm like, hey, if you want to move out, fine. But if you want to stay here, great. Just you pay all the bills and you buy the groceries, and I'll pay the rent. And we'll
Yeah.
you know? And I'm like, if you get tired of being an adult still living with your parent, I'm good. If you want to move out, I can downsize and move into a smaller place, or I can buy a house. I haven't really decided yet. We'll see. Plus, I want to make sure I'm health-wise. I'm actually staring down heart surgery here in probably about a month. I go on the 18th of this month to see my heart surgeon, and he's going to decide whether or not to do bypass surgery, or he's going to do it. It's just whether he'll do it now or will he put it off for longer, depending on, they're going to actually tomorrow I go for one of those EKGs, and then he'll look at the results of that and decide, yeah, I better do this, or no, he's fine for a while.
Yeah.
I hope you will be fine. Because, I enjoyed listening to you today.
That's scary stuff.
I didn't know you, but it's I really enjoyed it.
So. I've actually been on a show with Mav. I'm pretty sure, right?
Yeah.
Mav, we did one of Boom shows.
Next Gen Squad podcast.
There you go. That's where it was from.
I haven't been into the podcast and streamer thing for until last year.
Yeah.
And then Fleety was starting streaming, and then I met Patrick and Erwin from this podcast who are normally here. So I trying to support Dutch and the channel.
Yeah,
since then I'm into the podcast and streaming things. It's been only for like 1 year, maybe 1.5 year max. I see Matt now. I know them from Twitter, but I really didn't see the podcast stuff yet. But I normally only follow this podcast.
Yeah, they've got some awesome shows, and obviously we'll get hopefully Mads will launch in his very shortly, and we'll get through to that. Mav's part of many podcasts himself.
Yeah. I seen it on Twitter, But
Mav is everywhere.
I'm right here. What are you talking about?
Before I got really, really bad sick, I'd set it up where I was going to do a movie podcast called Mojo's Milkshake and Movies, where I was going to make the different milkshake each week and then talk about one or two movies.
Austin Powers
and
lost his mojo.
Probably would have just been mostly horror movies because that's more my thing. But I have a massive collection, like I said. But I got sick, and then even when I was in the hospital, I was on Mads' podcast.
Yeah, he was.
I was like,
"Hey, dude, are you alive? You're still alive?
Yeah, but the nurse just said I could do it, and I had my Surface Pro with me, and I'm like, well, crap, I'll just do it, But so yeah, it's been a lot of fun doing them. I've enjoyed it. I've been on Mads' show the whole time, and I've been on a few of Boom's, and there's been a couple of other ones that people started. I've been on the Iron Lords podcast twice.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so. But the only thing I bring to the table is just experience. When people are flipping out over something about a game being delayed or a company doing this or that, and I'm like, calm down. 30 years ago this happened, and it's the same thing that's happening now. It just things change, but they don't really change.
Yeah,
it's great to see someone like you. Not disrespectful, but you're 58. And then talk about gaming.
I don't know, man. I'll clearly,
No, but you talk about gaming like this. It's amazing to see that, man.
Hey, he's a real retro gamer, so yeah.
Yeah, I'm.
I've heard him talk about Sega, so I got a happy stand immediately. But
I got multiple PC engines, and like I'm a Neo Geo junkie. I've got multiple Neo Geo consoles, consoleized MVSs, and
Metal Slug.
Yeah, I got all that. I had. Why not? Like I said, I was working and making. I had the money, and so spinning consoles. It's a selfish hobby,
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Next up, we have Mav. Mav Fun Speculation, brother. Thank you very much for coming along today. If you let people know where they can find you and what you're up to next.
Yeah, dude, it was fun. It's fun. Nice. Hey, I didn't get to even hear you speak that much today, Dutch. It was interesting, bro.
Changed, isn't it?
No, man. I try and check your guys' podcast out every Wednesday. So it's fun to be on. I think I stepped on here once before with you guys, and it was a good time then. But yeah, it's nice meeting some of you that I haven't actually spoke to before. I don't know. I don't think I spoke to you, Shomberlon, before. Or
I think I was away for a couple of weeks when you were on.
So yeah, it's been awesome talking to you guys. So yeah, I guess tomorrow I may be able to be on there with Mads at Next Gen Squad podcast, doing that. As well as on Fridays, you can check us out on my YouTube channel, Fun Speculation, where we have the Xbox Ultimate podcast Friday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern. We do that with Assassin Lupa and Pong Soul, my wife Caitlin. Also, we have 3-Bit, you know him as VGHD. As well. So we have a lot of fun with that. We're starting a new podcast coming up in on the February the 21st. Yes, February 21st, and that's going to be kind of like a pop culture podcast going on about movies and TV shows and maybe some comic stuff and games, just kind of whatever, have some fun, talk about whatever. And we're doing that with 3-Bit and Psychonauts as well. So that's going to be on that channel. So you can also find me on Twitter at Fun Speculation. Shout out to everybody in the chat. Thanks for hanging out, guys. It was a blast. And I see what Wilmy said. Hey, I'm glad the secret's still safe, man. That's I'll make sure it never gets out. But yeah, dude, thanks for having me, man. It was fun.
Awesome, brother. Awesome. And thank you again for coming along. Yeah,
4 Guys with Quarters on Tuesdays. Actually, it's moving to Thursdays, guys. 4 Guys with Quarters podcast is moving to Thursdays. And there's a new show, 4 Guys with Quarters Radio, coming out on Tuesdays.
Oh, awesome stuff. I think I've definitely been on 4 Guys with Quarters once.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's an awesome show as well. Definitely get along with Flamish as well. He's a cool guy.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, awesome. Thanks very much for coming along there, Marv. And next up, Mads. Mads, again, you've been very busy yourself. Haven't had a chance to podcast much yourself recently, so it was good to see you on the show. And I'm glad to see your show is returning as well. So if you let people know where they can find you and what you're up to.
Yeah, well, thanks a lot for the invite. Yeah, sorry for being late as always. But yeah, it was cool to speak with you guys again. I had a break from podcasting for a while. Had some stuff happening at my work and stuff, so I had limited time and whatever, right? And my energy levels were low as well. So yeah, but I'm back. Things settled down a little bit. So podcast tomorrow. We kind of relaunch it. So that's going to be fun. And other than you can find me on Twitter, Mads Gaming PL, and YouTube, Mads Gaming. So I do daily videos here and there. So yeah, check that out if you like, PlayStation, Xbox news and stuff. So yeah, thanks a lot for inviting again.
No problem, buddy. No problem. Thank you very much for coming along. Herdog Vane, again, very much a last-minute thing. But thank you very much for coming along again, brother.
Yeah, no problem.
Let people know where they can find you and what you're up to over the next couple of days and week.
I'm going to be playing... I hope I'm going to finish Ori and the Will of the Wisp.
Yeah.
I hope. It's sometimes it's difficult game. It's hard to see where you have to go to. And I'm going to... play a lot of more Tom Clancy Ghost Recon Breakpoint.
Yeah.
So I hope I can play with Shomberlon and Patton Erwin. We'll see how it ends. And I'm gonna buy the Division 2 Warlords expansion.
Yeah. Sweet.
I'm gonna try that as well. And you can find me on Twitter, sometimes on Twitch, and of course my OnlyFans. That's good. Very good business now for €5 a month. But no. But that's about it. You can add me on Xbox. Last show was great, and I see a lot of people adding me. I don't know why, but I'm happy to join. Same with Shomberlon. So yeah, you
Awesome
can find me
stuff.
there. And I hope I
Sweet.
can.
Most definitely. Anybody, of course, this is we try to build this community. So everybody, if you haven't added each other, feel free to, and that goes for people in chat. Follow us all. Jump on. We're always up for gaming with new people and just gaming in general. So whether it be Sea of Thieves or Ghost Recon or Division, whatever it is, we're always doing something. So feel free to jump on board.
You asked me last week if Bex and Pink Ninja, Bunny, and stuff were available again for PUBG night.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they are. So if you want to meet up with the Fleety
Awesome
clan,
stuff.
you can do it again.
Another PUBG night. Yes.
Yeah,
yes, indeed.
Yeah.
We'll win this time.
I hope so.
Awesome stuff. Last but not least, Shomberlon, how are you doing, brother? And if you're letting people know where they can find you and what you're going to be up to.
I have 4 days off now, so I'm going to try and get back into gaming, although, like I said at the beginning, I've been in a bit of a funk. So hopefully I can get a bit of the Warlords DLC done. I might start Splinter Cell tomorrow.
Do it.
The original Splinter Cell.
Do it.
Which one?
Because it's the first one, the very first one.
Yes.
I don't think I've actually played that one. I think I jumped in at Pandora tomorrow. And I've been hooked ever since. So it'll be good to actually play a Splinter Cell I've not played.
You're going to stream it?
I don't know. Maybe.
What's your favorite?
Chaos Theory, by far.
Yeah.
Chaos Theory is the greatest game of all time.
Yeah, dude.
Oh, is it that good?
That's great. Oh man.
For kind of stealth games, I think it's the pinnacle. I think it's just such a good game. It's my only disappointment with that game is the second to last level in the bathhouse. It's the only one I didn't get 100%, and you lose percentages for being seen. So you basically have to go through the whole level without being seen, doing all the objectives. It's bloody hard. And there's just one bit at the end where I kept getting seen by people with night vision goggles. So even if I threw down with smoke, I kept getting clocked. So now I have a chance to make amends 15 years later.
The co-op mode is great on that as well. The co-op missions.
I don't think I played the co-op missions on that.
Oh, you have to play the co-op missions. It's a separate mode entirely from the story. It's like each individual mission's catered just for co-op.
In the first Splinter Cell?
No, Chaos Theory.
No, Chaos Theory.
Chaos Theory. Oh, okay, yeah.
I'm pretty sure I haven't co-opted Chaos Theory. I've done like the online stuff on the other side.
Sorry.
So I've done all the co-op on. Well, I can't remember the names now.
Conviction.
Conviction. Yeah, Conviction. Done all the co-op.
Yeah.
On the. Why is my brain failing now?
Blacklist.
Blacklist. Yeah. Thank you. So I've done like all the co-op stuff on that. I did a fair amount of the online stuff as well, but
yeah,
I kind of didn't have anyone to play with, and it's a really hard
dude.
game to.
If you need somebody, hey, I'm down. I want somebody to play some Splinter Cell multiplayer with.
Flipping add me then. Add me. It's
yeah.
I've just realised I don't know how long that's been there, but I've
you forgot the L again.
I missed the L. Shomberlon between the R and the Shomberlon.
That was confusing me for a second. I was like, I thought his name was Shomberlon, and like I'm sitting here like looking at it. I'm like, what?
I don't know how many weeks that's been there for. There we go.
He had a bit of luck. It was a lot of wine last week.
There was a lot of wine involved last week, so maybe that's. I've still got the bottle here.
Shomberlon.
Oh, I've still got the bottle. I should probably take that out. But yeah, no, definitely add me then, because I'm definitely up for some co-op play.
I think Jamie Moran plays a lot of Splinter Cell as well.
Oh, does he?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Get a little crew going then.
Yeah, he's very much another massive Splinter Cell fan. So awesome stuff. And you can find me in the usual place, Twitter at WandrinDutch, YouTube at WandrinDutch, Xbox, WandrinDutch, slightly abbreviated, because for the letter count. PlayStation GoesseN, which is my last name, GoESSEN. I'm not even going to go into Switch because that's a code. Pretty much everywhere you can find me. If you've got me on Twitter, you can find me on Switch. And of course, every Wednesday, 7 p.m. GMT here. That's 8 p.m. Central European, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard, and then, of course, 11 a.m. PDT. So I hope you all enjoyed the show.
Wandering much.
Yeah, I'm not wondering much, but I am wandering around. Dear me. Hope you enjoyed the show. Again, if you did, please like and subscribe. It is free to do so, and it does help the show quite a lot. And make sure you check out everyone's. I'm going to put the links in after the show for all the different podcasts these guys are about. So, of course, Mads' Next Level Gaming podcast, or Next Gen Gaming podcast, which will be tomorrow night. Mav's many podcasts he's part of, and Mojo's podcast as well. So I'll put those links in after the show. And until then, thank you very much, everybody, for joining us, and we'll see you all again next week. Thank you and goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.